Listen to me, don't ignore the pressure building inside you, the unrest that refuses to quiet down. This isn't coincidence, and it isn't just your imagination playing tricks on you. Something has shifted within you, around you, and ahead of you. You felt it even if you haven't found the words to describe it. That unspoken ache in your chest. That sudden discomfort with what used to feel normal. That's me. I've been moving the ground beneath your feet, gently at first, then louder so you would stop, look, and ask what I'm trying to show you. What you're experiencing is not chaos, it's the sound of change. The spiritual atmosphere around you is breaking open because I'm calling you out of where you've been and into where I'm taking you. You've been feeling this divine discomfort because the grace for your past season is lifting. It no longer fits. You can't force peace where I've already withdrawn my presence. I'm no longer blessing the version of you that stayed still. I'm pouring into the version that is brave enough to move forward. Don't dismiss this shaking. Don't label it confusion. It's holy interruption. You prayed for clarity, but clarity often comes disguised as disruption. What feels like an ending is me pushing you into purpose. I'm not just showing you what needs to go, I'm preparing you for what's about to arrive. There's no going back. I won't let you return to your comfort zone dressed in denial. This is the moment I've been preparing you for, in silence, in tears, in waiting. I am breaking the silence now because time can no longer be wasted. You are carrying something that must be birthed, and I will not allow you to miscarry it through delay or fear. This shift is not punishment, it's prophecy. It's the unfolding of a story written in my heart before the foundations of the world. You're not lost, you're being led. And I will walk with you through every unfamiliar place, through every unanswered question. But today, hear me loud and clear. The shift in your spirit is me telling you, it's time. You cannot remain where I've already left. Move now and you will meet me in the place I've already prepared for you. You need to understand something critical right now. This isn't just an attack. It's a revelation in disguise. The storm you're in has a name, and it's called exposure. It's not here to destroy what's good in you. It's here to remove what's been pretending to be. While you've been crying out for peace, I've been allowing this turbulence to show you what couldn't be seen in still waters. What's been lurking beneath the surface, the double-minded motives, the hidden bitterness, the fake support, the silent sabotage, all of it had to come up to the surface, and this storm is how it got there. You asked me to bring you clarity, but clarity doesn't always come softly. Sometimes it comes through chaos that strips away every mask, every illusion, every voice that doesn't belong in the next chapter of your calling. I permitted this shaking so you could finally see what's in costing you silently. This storm isn't accidental, it's intentional. The people who subtly distanced themselves, the opportunities that slipped away at the last moment, the relationships that cracked under pressure. That's not just life, it's me removing what looked solid but couldn't carry the weight of what's ahead. You've been building on ground that needed to be tested, and the winds were the test. I'm not cruel, I'm careful. I allow storms when I know they'll uncover what needs to be confronted. Because if you're going to step into what I've prepared, you can't take this hidden weight with you. What is happening around you is not failure, it's filtration. I'm filtering your life through this moment to reveal the impurities that have blended in with your blessing. Let them go. Let the losses happen. Let the masks fall. This season of discomfort is divine surgery. It's painful, but it's precise. And when the rain stops and the winds fade, you will see clearly who was real, who was assigned, who was never meant to stay. Stop trying to hold together things I am dismantling. If you fight to keep what I'm exposing, you'll end up trapped in what I'm trying to free you from. I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting you from false comfort, from toxic cycles, from partnerships I never endorsed. And here's what you need to grasp with urgency. If this storm hadn't come, you would have continued trusting the wrong voices, leaning on unsteady ground, and believing in fragile affirmations. So yes, I let the storm rage. I let the ground shake. But I never left you in it. I've been right beside you, guiding you not out of the storm but through it, so that by the time you reach the other side, you won't just survive, you'll see. You'll discern. You'll walk with a new level of strength that doesn't come from being comfortable, it comes from being cleansed. This storm was not designed to stay forever, but before it passes, it will reveal everything that cannot go with you into what I've planned. Don't pray for it to end too soon. Let it do its holy work. I am cleansing your environment. I am exposing intentions. I am breaking fake agreements. And once this storm has finished what I've sent it to do, you'll realize it wasn't a curse. It was a divine intervention wearing the clothing of a crisis. You'll thank me later. But for now, stand still and watch what I am doing, even if it hurts. This is where it gets difficult, when I start separating you from familiar faces. When those who once encouraged you now confuse you. When the ones you leaned on suddenly don't show up. When silence replaces connection and loyalty turns cold. But hear me, and hear me well. I never promised everyone in your life would finish the journey with you. Some were only meant to help you take the first few steps. Some were temporary scaffolding, not part of the foundation. You've been clinging to people I only assigned to a single chapter, not the entire story. That's why it's been hurting so much lately, because you're trying to carry connections that have already expired in purpose. I know it stings. I know their absence feels like betrayal. But I'm not allowing you to be surrounded by attachments that no longer align with your next instructions. This is more than separation, it's divine distinction. I am distinguishing who is still aligned with your calling and who is now misaligned with my will. You thought losing them was failure, but in reality, it's refinement. I'm refining your environment, and yes, that includes relationships. I've been watching as you've poured energy into keeping people close whose hearts have already drifted away from my presence. They stopped hearing me, yet you kept listening to them. Their advice once helped, but now it hinders. Their presence used to support, but now it suffocates. And if I don't allow this separation to happen, you'll end up dragging weights that will sabotage your momentum. It's not rejection, it's redirection. I'm turning your attention back to me. Not to make you feel isolated, but to remind you that not everyone can handle the revelation I'm about to unfold in your life. Some people you trusted would mishandle the next layer of your blessing. Some would celebrate you publicly and criticize you privately. Some are so tangled in their own insecurity that they couldn't walk beside your rising without secretly resenting it. And you know it. Deep inside, you sense the shift. You've noticed the change in tone, the lessening of support, the subtle withdrawal. That's me exposing what you wouldn't see clearly unless I step back and let the cracks show. Don't mourn what I removed. Don't chase after who I've gently taken from your path. If they were essential, they would still be present. And I know it's tempting to question why they left, to replay every moment in your mind, to grieve what you thought was permanent. But I need you to release the idea that permanence equals purpose. Some things are seasonal, and they are beautiful in their time, but devastating if you keep them longer than I intended. I'm calling you higher now, and higher always requires lighter. You cannot ascend while holding on to connections I've already severed. So don't fight me in this. Don't resist what I'm detaching from your life. There are divine reasons hidden in this heartbreak. I am not removing people to hurt you, I am making space for the right alignments to find you. You're not being abandoned, you're being prepared. And while this season may feel lonely, it will not last. I will send the ones who truly carry your burden, who understand your spiritual weight, who honor your growth, not just your gifts. But you must first allow me to finish the pruning. The road ahead is narrow, and only those equipped to walk in truth, integrity, and faith can journey beside you. Let me protect your path, even when it feels like loss. What you think you need is not greater than what I know you're called to carry. Trust me with the separation. Trust me with the quiet. Because on the other side of this surrender, you'll look back and realize I didn't subtract to hurt you. I subtracted to multiply what's coming. You don't have to explain to me what happened, I already saw it all, every whisper behind your back, every hidden agenda beneath the smiles, every silent dagger disguised as kindness. I witnessed it before you ever realized it. The moment they pretended to support you while planting seeds of doubt. I saw it. The moment they said one thing to your face and another behind closed doors. I heard every word. And even the betrayal you try to excuse, defend, or ignore, the one you call not that serious. I saw that too. Stop convincing yourself it wasn't betrayal just because it didn't shatter you completely. Not all wounds bleed on the outside. Some are quiet, deep, and slow to show. And I've watched you carry that wound, trying to stay strong, trying to move forward while silently dragging the weight of unspoken pain. I know you didn't want to believe they were capable of doing what they did. I know you replayed the memories in your head, asking yourself where it went wrong, blaming yourself for trusting too quickly, for loving too deeply, for giving too much. But child, listen, your love wasn't the mistake. Their deception was. Your purity was never the problem. Their duplicity was. You extended grace. They used it as a cover. You offered peace. They responded with poison. But here's what you must understand: I didn't overlook it. I didn't turn a blind eye. I took note of every action and every intention. And though you feel alone in this emotional wreckage, I've been standing right beside you through it all. Even when you blamed yourself for not seeing the truth sooner. Even when you questioned your discernment. Even when you tried to fix what was never your fault. I'm not here to embarrass you. I'm here to free you. You don't need to keep pretending it didn't hurt just to keep the peace. Stop preserving what's already broken. Stop defending the ones who dismantled your trust. I'm not asking you to hate them. I'm asking you to stop pretending you weren't betrayed. The moment you acknowledge it, I can start healing it. But as long as you excuse it, the wound stays open. And that open wound is slowing down your destiny. You were not designed to live guarded, always second-guessing love, constantly walking on emotional bliss. You were created to walk boldly in truth, with a heart that is whole, not patched together with fear and avoidance. So yes, I saw the betrayal. Yes, I allowed it. But not to break you. I allowed it to reveal where your trust was placed. Some trusted in people more than in me. Some relied on familiar relationships more than on my voice. And when the betrayal came, it didn't just hurt, it redirected your dependence. Now you see why I'm the only one who can carry your full heart. People may fail you, but I never will. I'm not asking you to live in bitterness. I'm asking you to stop writing what happened just to make it less painful. Because when you allow me into the truth of what hurt you, I can turn that pain into power. I will redeem the betrayal. I will use it to birth wisdom in you. You'll recognize false spirits quicker. You'll walk with deeper clarity. You'll love without losing discernment. But you have to stop sugarcoating what I'm trying to clean. Let it sting if it must. Let the tears fall if they come. But let the truth rise. That betrayal you keep minimizing was a key moment I'm using to reposition your heart for greater. And soon, what was meant to break you will become the very evidence of how I built you. Let me start healing it today, not with silence but with surrender. You had a picture in your mind, an expectation of how things should unfold. You dreamed. You planned. You drew blueprints in your heart with passion and hope. You mapped your milestones, scheduled your seasons, and visualized outcomes that made sense to your logic. And when things didn't go as you expected, when doors stayed shut, when timelines were missed, when your heart kept waiting while others celebrated, you wondered if I forgot you. But I didn't. I never lost sight of your future. I never abandoned the promise. I simply refused to let you settle for a version of it that was smaller than what I wrote for you. The journey you envisioned was comfortable, predictable, and safe. But what I've written for you is divine, stretching, and purposeful. You thought the delays were setbacks, but they were divine detours leading you away from what would have stunted your growth. I'm not punishing you for dreaming, I'm realigning you with what actually fits your calling. Because what you thought was the destination was only a rest stop. The place you tried to settle in would have limited your capacity. The people you surrounded yourself within that season could not carry the weight of what's coming. I saw every unseen variable, every spiritual snare, every subtle trap hidden behind opportunity. So yes, I interrupted your path. I overturned some of your expectations. Not to frustrate you, but to free you from a version of your future that would have been built on incomplete vision. If I had allowed everything to go the way you imagined, you'd be further from your anointing, not closer to it. The road you designed would have fed your comfort, but not refined your character. I couldn't allow you to reach influence before you developed endurance. I couldn't let you run into rooms unprepared for the weight of spiritual authority. You prayed to be used greatly, and I listened. But greatness cannot grow in shallow ground. So, I took the liberty of rerouting your steps. That's why some relationships faded. That's why the position you were qualified for was given to someone else. That's why your journey looks slower than others, but in reality, I'm building you deeper. The pace you see is not the pace I'm working at. While you wait, I'm forming something eternal inside you. The vision I've placed over your life is too sacred to rush, too vast to be confined to your current understanding. I need you to trust me when I lead you off the map. I need you to follow when I whisper, "This way," even if it looks unfamiliar. I need you to release the picture in your head so I can reveal the plan in my heart. You've imagined comfort, but I've authored transformation. You've asked for predictability, but I've prepared miracles that defy reason. Let me surprise you. Let me shatter every box you placed your destiny in. Because what I'm doing won't look like what you planned, but it will be greater than what you hoped for. I am taking you on the road less traveled, the one that leads through valleys, up mountains, across wilderness, but ends in glory. And when you reach it, when you finally see why I had to say no to your version, you'll thank me. You'll weep not from regret, but from awe. You will realize I didn't just lead you. I carried you over terrain you weren't ready to walk. And all the while, I was making sure that nothing would steal what I planted in you. So today, I ask you to surrender the plan. Lay it down. Give me what you drew so I can show you what I designed. Because the path you imagined may have looked beautiful, but the road I crafted leads to eternal purpose. And I promise you, it will be worth every twist, every turn, and every tear. You've mistaken my quiet for distance, but child, I have never walked away from you, not for a moment. My stillness wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. You cried in the dark and wondered why I didn't answer. You pleaded for a sign, searched for confirmation, listened for a whisper in the winds of uncertainty, but all you heard was the echo of your own thoughts. That silence wasn't me ignoring you. It was me allowing space for deeper transformation. Because if I had spoken too soon, you would have heard it through the filter of fear, not faith. If I had answered while you were still carrying noise from your surroundings, my voice would have blended in with your doubts. I needed you to come to the end of your striving, your self-reliance, your forced logic, so that when I spoke, it would pierce straight into your spirit with clarity. Silence is sacred in the kingdom I rule. It's where I work without distractions. It's where I dismantle lies quietly so you can learn to recognize my truth when it finally resounds. I've been in every room you sat alone in, every late night where sleep wouldn't come, every drive where you tried to hold back tears. My presence didn't vanish. It simply withdrew into stillness so your heart would hunger again. You've been fed by voices for too long. You've depended on constant affirmation to feel secure. But now, I'm teaching you how to hear me in the absence of applause. That's why I let things grow quiet, not to punish you, but to purify your attention. And now, finally, the moment has come where I can speak without competition. This is why I kept silent, because what I'm about to say must not be missed. I didn't speak before because the soil wasn't ready, but now your heart has been tilled by trials, softened by surrender, and opened by longing. I needed you to want my voice more than validation. I needed you to value divine instruction more than human reassurance. And now that I have your full attention, not just your ears, but your soul, I will not hold back what needs to be released. Listen with urgency, because what I say now will shape what comes next. I'm about to answer questions you buried. I'm about to reveal reasons behind seasons you never understood. I'm about to unlock pieces of your purpose that confusion once covered. But you must understand something. My voice will not always come loud. It will not always sound like thunder. Sometimes it's the nudge that wakes you at midnight. Sometimes it's the stillness that arrests your scrolling. Sometimes it's the quiet pull to step away, to close the door, to pause and wait. I speak to those who are willing to listen with more than just curiosity. I speak to those who quiet their agendas, mute their fears, and lean in with expectation. The days of spiritual dullness are over for you. You've been trained by silence, and now you will be trusted with sound. My words will meet you in moments you don't expect, while doing dishes, walking alone, reading in a corner. Stay ready. Stay soft. Because I've held back rivers of revelation, waiting for this moment when you could receive them without distorting them. You're not forgotten. You're not overlooked. You're not late. You're right where I've wanted you, empty enough for me to fill. I didn't leave you. I just waited until the noise faded. And now, as I begin to speak, don't just listen with your head, respond with your steps. What I say in secret must be followed in the open. Because when my silence breaks, direction comes. And when direction comes, movement must follow. You've longed for this moment. Now that it's here, don't delay. I'm not only talking, I'm ready to lead. It may look like I'm tearing things down, but what I'm really doing is rescuing you from what was never meant to stand. So much of what you thought was stable was held together by fragile threads of assumption, ideas you formed without waiting on me, expectations you created without my voice, strategies you embraced without my blessing. You interpreted silence as agreement, comfort as confirmation, familiarity as favor. But not every peaceful moment was from me, and not every open door was divine. Now, I must confront the things you declared as my will that were actually born from convenience and misread signs. This will feel uncomfortable, but it's holy. I'm not destroying your life, I'm dismantling illusions. Because what's been built in error cannot carry the weight of what I'm about to release. You can't step into the next phase with half-truths under your feet. I need you to stop assuming I will bless everything you desire just because you desire it deeply. Desire without direction leads to detours, and I love you too much to let you keep wandering. That's why I'm interrupting now. You were building walls of protection around things I never asked you to guard. You were laying bricks of plans that looked wise but lacked my breath. And if I let it continue, you would have climbed into a structure that would eventually collapse under pressure. So, I've stepped in to interrupt, not to punish but to preserve. I am confronting your personal blueprints with my perfect design. This means you may feel like things are falling apart, when in truth, they are falling into alignment. I cannot let you keep defending what I'm trying to demolish. I need your surrender more than your skill. I don't need your plan polished, I need your obedience pure. You can't keep building altars where I never placed my presence. And you'll know I'm doing this when things you once relied on start unraveling, when doors you were sure of suddenly lock, when people you thought were essential walk away. That's not chaos, it's correction. That's not failure, it's freedom. I am releasing you from false foundations. I am realigning you with promises that require precision, not presumption. Don't mourn what I remove. Don't grieve over undone blueprints. What you thought was solid was temporary scaffolding. I'm the architect, and I build on truth. That means tearing down myths, exposing misunderstandings, and revealing hidden motives, starting with the ones you've been afraid to admit. This is not the time to cling to your own understanding. This is the time to ask me what's real and what's not. Bring every structure of your heart into the light. Bring every plan, every attachment, every goal, and place it at my feet. Let me inspect what you've been building. If it's strong, I'll strengthen it. If it's flawed, I'll start again. But I will allow your identity to be wrapped in a tower of sand. You're about to carry a truth so powerful, It will cut through confusion and command clarity wherever you go, but first, I must ensure it's rooted in me, not assumption. That's why I'm being thorough. That's why I'm not sparing your feelings for the sake of your comfort, because what I'm doing in you now will echo through generations. It's deeper than this moment. And though this season feels heavy, what I'm building will stand through storms you haven't even imagined yet. Trust me with the process. Let me finish what you would have settled halfway. Let me rebuild not just your path, but your perception. Because once you're rooted in my truth, you won't just walk in confidence, you will walk in clarity, covered in a peace that doesn't waver when circumstances shift. Let me clear the ground. Let me start again with what's pure, holy, and aligned with eternity. That's how I build, and what I build cannot be shaken. You've asked me why things took so long. You've looked at others sprinting ahead, securing breakthroughs, achieving milestones, and you've wondered what you did wrong. You've whispered, did I miss it? Did I fail you somehow? And I need to speak into that space of confusion now. The waiting you've endured wasn't because you were behind, it was because I was holding you back for your safety. I wasn't denying your prayer, I was shielding you from situations you didn't realize were dangerous. I saw what was hidden beneath the surface, agendas cloaked in opportunity, traps hidden beneath praise, burdens you weren't designed to carry just yet. I knew what accepting that offer would have cost you long term. I knew what relationships you were attracted to would later drain the very life from your calling. So, I held you in a season of pause, not because I was angry, but because I was protecting the purpose inside you from being prematurely exposed to harm. You were not forgotten, you were preserved. And every moment you thought was wasted was actually divine insulation. I had you wrapped in unseen mercy, waiting until the environment around you could handle your arrival. Like a seed waiting beneath the soil. It wasn't time for you to break the surface. The pressure wasn't punishment, it was a preparation of your roots. I was deepening you, strengthening you in places no one could see, building resilience, endurance, discernment, and spiritual depth. If I had rushed your breakthrough, it would have crumbled under untested character. I was teaching you to walk in faith, not in frenzy. I was teaching you to hear me, not just respond to noise. You don't realize how many times I rescued you without you even knowing there was danger. A job you were desperate for. It would have drained you dry. A door you begged me to open. It led to bondage, not blessing. That person you wanted to partner with. Their heart wasn't pure, and their plans would have entangled you. I had to disappoint your temporary desire to fulfill your eternal destiny. So yes, I delayed it. But I delayed it with divine intention. I knew that if you moved too soon, you would carry what wasn't yours, attach to what wasn't aligned, and settle for less than what I planned. Now that the time is near, you'll see why I made you wait. What's about to unfold couldn't have happened if I hadn't trained you in patience. You learned to trust me without seeing the results. You learned to seek me when doors stayed shut. You learned to pray when silence lingered. And now, when I open the right door, you'll walk through it with clarity, not desperation. You'll know the difference between counterfeit and covenant. You'll recognize peace over pressure. You'll move with conviction instead of chaos. And that is the kind of readiness I needed from you. Because what I'm giving now is sacred. It's not just another assignment, it's an appointment. One that will shape others, not just elevate you. That's why I had to make sure your heart was pure. Your ears were trained. Your spirit was steady. Delay wasn't denial, it was divine defense. You didn't miss your moment. You're not too late. You're exactly on schedule. The path may have looked blocked, but I was making a way through wilderness. I was clearing what you couldn't see ahead. I was keeping you from rushing into rooms I hadn't anointed yet. And now, as the atmosphere begins to shift, as I begin to bring things forward, remember this: what I give you now was worth the wait. And what you carry into this next season will be stronger because of what you endured in the last. You didn't fail, you were being faithfully filtered through my wisdom. And now, you're not just ready, you're safe to release. Trust my pace, even when it doesn't match your plans. Because I never waste time. I redeem it. You thought I was stalling. You assumed the silence was delay. But in truth, I was standing between you and something that would have caused lasting damage. You called it a pause, but I was intercepting harm. I know what you couldn't have seen. I saw motives that were masked behind smiles. I recognized the hidden snares behind opportunities that glittered with potential. You saw progress. I saw pitfalls. And so, I placed my hand over the situation, not to restrict you, but to guard what I planted inside you. You were pacing in frustration, but I was protecting you from walking into a storm disguised as success. If I had let you proceed the moment you wanted to, the impact of what was hidden would have broken more than just your plans. It would have crushed your spirit. You were calling me late, but I was being deliberate. I delayed a connection because it would have compromised your clarity. I blocked a decision because it would have chained your freedom. I interrupted a direction because it would have silenced your discernment. You didn't know what was ahead, but I did. I wasn't just managing your calendar, I was managing your safety. The time you spent wondering, waiting, questioning, that was me standing on the front line, shielding you from attacks that hadn't yet reached your awareness. While you felt abandoned, I was intercepting ambushes that could have rerouted your destiny. I delayed advancement not to test your patience, but to preserve your purity. I was building spiritual muscle while you were still asking for shortcuts. I saw the tangled agreements you almost signed. I watched as you nearly gave your yes to something that looked noble but was never holy. And I had to intervene. That moment you felt like everything fell apart. That was the very second I pulled you back before the collapse could reach you. I understand it didn't make sense at the time. I know it hurt. But one day, you'll look back with gratitude for the delay you once resented. You'll say, "Thank you for stopping me when I couldn't see the full picture." And that's why I'm reminding you now, not every closed path was a rejection, some were redirections away from ruin. My ways may seem slow, but they are precise. I don't move according to pressure, I move in alignment with purpose. And your protection matters more to me than your pace. I'm not hurrying to meet your expectations, I'm preparing to exceed them, safely. If I had moved according to your schedule, you would have stepped into places unarmed. You would have carried promises into poisonous environments. But I've been working behind the curtain, rearranging scenes, removing threats, recalibrating the timing so that when you do step forward, you'll be surrounded by wisdom, covered in discernment, and filled with the strength you gain through waiting. You haven't been wasting time, you've been learning to hear me without noise. You've been learning to walk in rhythm with grace, not adrenaline. You've been growing roots so that when you bloom, it won't be brief, it will be sustained. This moment right now, as you read these words, is proof that I never left you in limbo. I was leading in silence. Every quiet season was crowded with my hand clearing paths you didn't even know you would walk. So don't resent the waiting. Rejoice that I kept you from dangers that never touched you. I won't always show you what I'm saving you from, but I will always keep you covered. Your delay was never an accident, it was intentional deliverance. And as you step into what's next, do it with peace, knowing this: I've already gone before you, and nothing is arriving without being filtered through my wisdom. I didn't just hold back danger, I made sure what reaches you now is safe, sanctified, and sealed in my timing. Let me prepare your heart for this reality. Not every hand that claps when you win is connected to a heart that hopes you succeed. You must understand that applause can be deceptive. Some people only celebrate you as long as your victory serves their comfort, their image, or their pride. When the spotlight shines on you, they'll smile. But when shadows appear, when the momentum slows, when the crowd quiets, when struggle begins, those same voices will fade, and some will even turn against you. That's not your failure, that's their exposure. I allowed certain people to walk with you in success so you could witness how quickly loyalty shifts when pressure comes. This was never to make you paranoid, but to mature you. Because I do not want you anchored in affirmation. I want you rooted in conviction. The ones who stood in your corner while everything looked impressive will often distance themselves when the cracks begin to show. They'll whisper their doubts. They'll speculate your motives. They'll attach questions to your name that I never wrote into your identity. And it will hurt not because you need their approval, but because you never expected their shift. You gave freely. You trusted deeply. And they responded with withdrawal the moment things no longer benefited them. But hear me clearly, I saw it before you did. I knew who had quiet resentment beneath their praise. I saw the silent comparisons behind their smiles. That's why I allowed certain falls not to shame you, but to separate what was false from what's faithful. Because I would rather reveal hollow support now than let you depend on it in your next chapter. You do not need a crowd to confirm your calling. You don't need validation from those who only understand you when you're thriving. What I'm doing in you requires endurance, and endurance is often built in solitude. I'm stripping away attachments that were never covenant. I'm revealing the difference between admiration and alignment. The truth is, I allowed the fall to purify your perspective. When you hit the wall, when things slowed down, when momentum dissolved, you discovered something deeper. You found that I was still standing beside you, even when others walked away. And that's when it became clear, my presence is not seasonal. I'm not with you because of your performance. I'm with you because of my promise. I don't withdraw when things get messy. I don't question you when the journey gets tough. I remain, and I rebuild. That is the kind of love you can trust. And it's the kind of love I want you to mirror in your relationships. No more tying your worth to who shows up when you win. From now on, let me teach you how to discern character before charisma. Let me show you how to identify spiritual alignment before emotional attachment. You don't need everyone to understand your story. You need the right people to walk it with you, people I assign, not ones you assemble. And when you rise again, and you will do not seek revenge or resentment. Rise with grace. Let the ones who doubted you watch as I elevate you in a way no human support could orchestrate. Let them witness how I restore what they thought was lost. Let your comeback speak of my faithfulness, not your frustration. Because I will turn what was used against you into testimony. I will take the sting of their silence and shape it into strength. And as I lift you, you will no longer rely on applause to feel valuable. You'll walk in unshakable confidence, not because everyone believes in you, but because you know I do. So let the fall do its work. Let it clean the atmosphere around you. Let it break illusions. Because once I finish the rebuilding, you'll rise not just taller but truer, wiser, and surrounded by what's real. This next unveiling will not be subtle, it will be necessary. You've been surrounded by people whose presence felt supportive, whose words seemed sincere, and whose actions appeared loyal. But in the quiet places of their hearts, not everyone was celebrating you. Some were secretly competing. Others stayed close not because they honored your journey, but because they wanted access to the oil without carrying the cost. I allowed them to walk with you not to deceive you, but to teach you discernment. I never intended for you to be harmed by their company. But I knew that unless you saw it clearly, you would keep inviting shadows into spaces meant for light. So now I'm bringing distinction. I'm going to start pulling back the curtain, not to embarrass anyone, but to liberate you. You've been giving emotional energy to people whose loyalty was circumstantial. When you rose, they praised you. When you struggled, they drifted. And now that I'm preparing to lift you higher, I cannot allow you to carry what was only supposed to be seasonal. This is the moment where alignment matters more than history. I know how much you've invested into certain relationships. I understand the years, the memories, the sacrifices. But connection without integrity is contamination. You can't build your future with people who only stayed for what they could gain. I've seen the envy behind the compliments. I've heard the side conversations that never reached your ears. And while you kept extending grace, they kept operating in duplicity. I'm not asking you to retaliate. I'm asking you to release. You don't need to confront them, I'm already handling it in the spirit. The exposure won't come from your lips. It will come through their own inconsistency. Watch how I allow circumstances to reveal what hearts tried to hide. You'll see who shows up when there's nothing to gain. You'll see who intercedes when there's no spotlight. And most importantly, you'll see how I remove what no longer protects your purpose. Because you can't afford to enter your next season with divided loyalty around you. What I'm doing through you will require unity, purity, and complete alignment with my voice. And anything that competes with it must be cut away, not to isolate you, but to preserve what's holy. There are assignments on your life that require strong intercessors, not just familiar faces. People who can recognize the spiritual battle around you and lift you up, not just repost your victories. I'm bringing those people. I'm replacing false support with true pillars. I'm making room for covenant connections that speak life without agenda. But first, the separation must happen. And I know it's painful. I know part of you wants to hold on, hoping things can go back to how they were. But what you miss is not who they are now, it's who you believed they were. Let that sink in. You weren't wrong for loving them. But I'm asking you to stop confusing access with assignment. Just because they were present doesn't mean they were purposed. And now, I'm removing the veil. You'll begin to feel the shift in conversations. You'll notice the distance that forms naturally. Don't resist it. Don't chase what I'm detaching. This is not rejection, it's realignment. I'm pulling you into relationships that will guard your destiny, not just applaud your gift. You're entering a season where authenticity is non-negotiable. I'm surrounding you with people who see your soul, not just your platform. People who intercede for you in private without needing credit. People who carry burdens with you instead of adding to them. And when that shift completes, you'll breathe deeper. You'll feel lighter. You'll walk stronger. Because what surrounds you will finally match what I've placed within you. Let me finish this holy rearrangement. Trust me with the unveiling. You don't need to know who's who right now, just stay close to me, and I'll show you everything in time. I'm not just protecting your heart, I'm preparing your circle. I know it's hard to let go. I see how tightly you've gripped something I've already asked you to place down. You've poured energy, time, emotion, and prayer into keeping it intact because in your heart, you believed it still had life. You convinced yourself that with just a little more effort, a little more patience, a little more hope, it would return to what it once was. But I need to tell you something you haven't wanted to hear. I already declared the ending. What you've been trying to maintain, I've already released. You're tending to something I've already buried, and that's why it keeps draining you. It's not cursed, it's completed. And the more you fight to restore it, the more you prolong your own healing. This isn't me being cruel. This is me protecting you from future collapse. I've already removed my hand from it, not in anger, but in wisdom. I saw where it was going. I saw what you couldn't admit. I knew the damage that would follow if you stayed tethered. And so I gave you signs. I stirred your spirit. I removed peace. I allowed tension to rise, not to punish, but to prompt you to ask questions you've been avoiding. I love you too much to bless what I've closed. And now, in this moment, I need your surrender, not because you failed, but because your faith is better placed in what's ahead, not what's over. This is the kind of obedience that requires courage. It's not flashy. It doesn't come with applause. But it's holy. It's the kind of surrender that says, even though I don't understand, I will trust. I'm not asking you to forget what you felt. I'm asking you to release the weight of what no longer serves the mission. A chapter and a role. It taught you lessons. It developed your capacity. But it cannot go forward with you. The structure no longer fits the season. If you try to carry it with you, it will only burden what I'm trying to build next. Let go of the version of the story you were holding on to. Let go of the outcomes you rehearsed. Let go of the timelines you had arranged. This is where you learn the power of release. Because the longer you cling, the longer you delay the arrival of what I'm trying to place into your hands. My blessings don't land where old altars still stand. I'm not calling you to dishonor what once was. I'm calling you to recognize its conclusion. You're not losing. You're transitioning. And yes, it may ache. Yes, it may leave questions unanswered. But freedom rarely comes without friction. And in this space, between goodbye and what's next, I'm standing beside you, whispering peace into your confusion. I'm not rushing you, but I am inviting you. Inviting you to trust that what's coming holds more substance than what you're walking away from. You keep asking me to revive something I've already redeemed through its ending. What you thought was loss was actually really. What you call brokenness was actually redirection. If I had let it continue, you would have slowly unraveled beneath the weight of false expectations. Now, I'm offering rest. I'm offering clarity. But it begins with your decision to stop forcing life into something I've allowed to end. Don't mourn the close of a door when I'm unlocking another you haven't seen yet. Don't fear the unknown. I am not leaving you empty. I'm clearing space for something that actually aligns with the depths of who you're becoming. You've cried enough over this. You've questioned yourself long enough. Now, trust me enough to walk forward not with regret, but with relief. What you're releasing today will make room for restoration tomorrow. You're not walking away from purpose, you're stepping into it. And one day soon, you'll look back and say, "Thank you for not letting me stay in what you already finished." You've mistaken ease for alignment, but I never promised that the path of purpose would be painless. I offered you peace, the kind that steadies the soul even when the circumstances are unfamiliar, but somewhere along the way, you traded it for what felt predictable. You chose what looked manageable instead of what was truly meaningful. I whispered direction into your heart, and you heard me, but then fear stepped in and redirected your feet toward what felt safe. That safety, though, was not sanctified. It wasn't grounded in obedience, it was built on avoidance. You didn't choose wrong out of rebellion. You chose familiarity out of fear of failing. But I want you to see this clearly now. Comfort and peace are not the same. One cushions you temporarily. The other anchors you eternally. Comfort says, "Stay where nothing challenges me." Peace says, "I will go where he leads even if I don't understand." And child, I offered peace every time I nudged you forward, but you kept shrinking back, convincing yourself that stability was found in control. I know it seemed wiser to stick with what you knew. I know it looked more responsible to stay where outcomes felt certain. But I didn't call you to settle, I called you to surrender. And now I'm showing you what that decision has cost you, not in shame, but in clarity. You've been walking in circles, calling it strategy, but I've been standing outside the loop, waiting for your heart to turn back toward trust. The reason that comfort has started feeling like captivity is because I've lifted the grace from it. You're feeling the restlessness, the discontent, the holy frustration because I'm shaking you out of stagnation. I never meant for you to confuse stillness with settling. Peace is not the absence of challenge, it's the presence of purpose in the midst of challenge. When I lead you into unfamiliar territory, I don't do it to scare you. I do it to stretch your faith. But you've been resisting movement, labeling it discernment, when in truth it's been delay disguised as wisdom. You told yourself you were waiting on me, but I was already waiting on you. I've placed opportunities in front of you that required boldness, not perfection. I didn't ask you to have it all figured out, I asked you to trust the one who does. You asked me to show you the way, and I did, but because it didn't come wrapped in certainty, you stepped away from it. You chose what made sense instead of what required surrender. But I am reminding you today, peace comes from my presence, not your plan. What you called comfort has quietly become a prison, and I'm unlocking the door again. Not to force you out, but to free you from the lie that safety equals success. The safest place for you is always where I am, even when it feels like deep water. You were made for me. And while comfort asks you to sit, peace tells you to step forward with courage. That courage is coming back to you now. It's still, strong assurance that I will never let you drown, even if the waters look wild. I'm calling you out of shallow living. I'm calling you into the flow of faith. I'm calling you to stop consulting your fear before you follow my voice. The next chapter of your journey can't begin until you stop defending your delay. Let go of the comfort zone you made a home out of. It was only supposed to be a rest stop, not your destination. My peace is waiting on the other side of your obedience. And once you taste it, once you step into the deep and feel my strength under your feet, you'll realize that what you were afraid of was never greater than the one guiding you. This is the moment to choose again. Not comfort, not control. Choose peace, real peace. The kind that moves mountains. The kind that silences storms. The kind that only I can give when you finally let go of what you thought would keep you safe. You feel like everything around you is crumbling, like the pieces you held together with your bare hands are slipping through your grasp. You've stood as strong as you could, but now the ground beneath your feet feels unstable, unfamiliar, unpredictable. And in this moment of emotional collapse, you've asked if this is the end, if this is where your strength runs out and your story fades. But let me tell you this, with the full weight of heaven behind it, this is not where it ends. This is where the true version of you begins to emerge. This breaking point is not a sign of failure, it is the place where false identities fall away and the real you, the one I've been shaping all along, finally comes forth. Everything that's shaking right now is being allowed by my hand, not to punish you, but to purify the foundation you're standing on. I'm removing what cannot remain. I'm clearing away attachments, expectations, beliefs, and behaviors that have weighed you down and blocked your clarity. You can't carry old structures into the next phase. You can't step into divine power while still anchored to what you've outgrown. So, I'm breaking what no longer fits, not to harm, but to heal. I am not tearing you apart. I am revealing the strength I've planted beneath the surface. You've spent so long trying to maintain composure, pretending to be unshaken. But true strength isn't in suppressing the breaking. It's in allowing the break to become your turning point. You're not falling apart, you're being reshaped. You're being refined like gold, purified by fire, molded through surrender. I'm not interested in building upon survival, I'm calling forth significance. And that requires removal. That requires stripping. That requires this moment where you finally collapse into my arms, not because you gave up, but because you finally gave in. You've done all you could in your own effort. Now it's time for me to take over. At this breaking point, your striving ends and my strength begins. Your identity isn't in what you can endure, it's in who you become through it. And right now, I'm introducing you to a version of yourself that fear cannot intimidate, that storms cannot move, that shame cannot silence. I'm not just building resilience, I'm birthing revelation. Through this breaking, you will understand what it means to be carried by grace. Through this pressure, you will discover that you were not created to depend on your own ability, but to dwell in the sufficiency of my power. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's vulnerable. But breaking is how transformation begins. Like a seed must split before it grows, so must you release what's keeping you contained. I've allowed this moment so that what I placed inside you can finally emerge without obstruction. What's ahead of you is too big for the old patterns to sustain. That's why I'm disrupting the rhythm you've become too familiar with. I'm not leaving you in the rubble, I'm rebuilding you from it. Stronger. Clearer. Oh. You will rise from this. Not with the same tired strength you once used to hold things together. I see deep into places you've never spoken of, the corners of your soul where traces of past seasons still cling. There are fragments in your heart that did not come from me. Bits of fear that settled during moments of rejection. Dust of shame that attached itself in moments of silence. Echoes of criticism that reshaped how you see yourself. These are not my seeds. They are the leftover impressions of experiences that wounded you. Voices that weren't mine. Lies whispered in vulnerable places. And though you've moved forward, you haven't fully healed. I see how you've learned to function with residue, how you've adapted to emotional weight that was never meant to be permanent. But child, I didn't call you to survive carrying contamination. I called you to thrive with a clean heart, with clear vision, with unshakable identity. And that's why I'm bringing this to light, not to condemn you but to cleanse you. What remains hidden continues to influence. That quiet insecurity that whispers, "You're not enough." I never said that. That urge to prove your worth through works, through success, through performance. That didn't come from me. That hesitation to receive love because you're afraid it won't last. That wasn't authored by heaven. These traces have subtly shaped how you pray, how you trust, how you interpret my voice. And now, I'm putting my hand on those places, asking you to let me clean what trauma, failure, disappointment, or neglect left behind. I don't just want your faith, I want your freedom. I'm not after appearances. I'm after restoration. And I can't fully pour in what's new until the old residue is removed. Let me purify the places that still respond from pain. Let me touch the areas that trigger reactions instead of release. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to fix it alone. Just bring it to me exactly as it is. I am not ashamed of what wounded you. I'm not impatient with your healing. But I am committed to your wholeness. That's why I'm stirring up the memories you thought you had buried. Not to torment you, but to show you that they don't hold power anymore. The moment you bring them into my presence, their grip breaks. I don't work around residue, I remove it. That bitterness you suppressed but never released. Let me lift it. That anxiety you've normalized but never addressed. Let me speak peace into it. That guilt you carry like a quiet companion in your mind. I want to silence it with grace. You cannot run forward while dragging yesterday's pain in your shadow. I'm not calling you backward, I'm calling you inward. Deeper into a place where you don't have to perform healing, but receive it. You've been strong long enough. Now it's time to be honest. Time to admit that even though you look healed, there's residue you still feel when no one is watching. And I'm not here to scold you, I'm here to sanctify every corner of your heart that still carries weight I never gave you. Let me wash you completely. Not just from what happened, but from what it left behind. I want your joy back, not half, but overflowing. I want your trust restored, not cautious, but confident. I want your soul light, unburdened, whole. But that begins by allowing me to clean what others left dirty. Your scars are safe in my hands. Your history doesn't scare me. What was meant to stain you will be turned into a testimony of how I rescue completely. This is not surface work. This is soul-level redemption. And once it's done, you'll no longer see yourself through the lens of pain, but through the lens of my love. That's how deeply I care. That's how far I'll go to restore what others overlooked. Nothing will be left untouched. I'm finishing what they never started. And when I'm done, there will be no residue, only radiance. You've been pushing forward, keeping pace, showing up even when your strength felt like it had run dry, and you thought that was growth. You measured progress by endurance, by how well you held things together when everything threatened to fall apart. You equated busyness with blessing and thought that because you were functioning, you were flourishing. But child, I never called you to just make it through. I called you to live truly live in fullness, not fragments. What you've been doing is surviving. Waking up with just enough energy to get through the day. Smiling while silently breaking. Performing peace while hiding exhaustion. I saw it all, and I never judged you, I held you. But now I'm inviting you out of survival mode. I'm calling you out of that cycle where you celebrate making it through another week, yet never feel fully alive in the one you're in. I have more for you than just scraping by emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I didn't lay down my life for you to live on empty. I didn't conquer death so you could live in a routine of quiet desperation. I came so that you would have life overflowing, whole, free. And I see how somewhere along the way, you stopped believing that kind of life was possible for you. You started accepting the bare minimum because it felt safer than disappointment. You stopped dreaming bold dreams because they always seemed too far out of reach. You buried your passion beneath practicality and began convincing yourself that enough to get by was a sign of maturity. But I'm here to shake that lie loose from your spirit. Survival may have taught you how to endure, but I'm about to teach you how to enjoy. I'm not offering temporary relief, I'm offering complete renewal. I'm not giving you a schedule that numbs your pain, I'm breathing life into every area that's gone dull from delay and discouragement. You were not created to live in constant strain. You weren't designed to call exhaustion your normal. Yes, there will be battles. Yes, there will be trials. But that is not the atmosphere of your entire existence. I am offering joy that reaches into the deepest parts of your soul. Rest that doesn't wait for the weekend. Peace that doesn't need perfection to stay. But to step into this kind of abundance, you must release the mindset that tells you struggle is the standard. You've worn hardship like a badge, but I want to give you healing as your identity. You celebrated being strong in storms, but I want to teach you to dance in sunlight. This isn't about denying your past, it's about no longer being defined by it. You survived, yes, and I honor that. But now I'm calling you higher, into days where you don't just endure, but delight. Into mornings where hope rises before worry. Into conversations that uplift instead of drain. Into work that aligns with purpose, not pressure. Into relationships that nourish, not deplete. You were made for that kind of life. And though it may feel unfamiliar, don't run from it. Don't sabotage it out of habit. Don't shrink back because you've grown used to scarcity. I am doing a new thing in you, not just spiritually, but in your daily reality. You will begin to feel again. Laugh freely. Rest without guilt. Create with passion. Love without fear of loss. This is the season where survival ends and abundance begins. Not because your circumstances are perfect, but because your soul is anchored in me. I am writing what life looks like for you. No more settling. No more just getting through. The table I've prepared has more than enough. Come hungry. Come open. Come ready. Because what's ahead will not drain you, it will refresh you. And you will finally know what it means to be truly, deeply, joyfully alive. What you've been calling loss, I've been using as transformation, but felt like subtraction was actually sacred refinement. I never came to tear you down, but I will remove anything that interrupts the flow of my purpose in your life. I am the gardener, and when I see a branch that has potential to bear more fruit, I don't leave it alone, I cut away what no longer serves it. You may have felt the sting of endings, sudden changes, unexpected silence, but none of it was to punish you. It was to make room. There were attachments that were draining your strength, attitudes that limited your vision, and habits that quietly pulled you off course. And because I love you too deeply to let those things remain, I placed my hands on them and began to prune. I know it felt abrupt. I know you weren't ready to let some of it go. But the harvest I'm preparing requires space, and the version of you that's coming forth doesn't have room for what used to fit. I'm not cutting you to wound you. I'm trimming away what would have eventually choked your growth. You were designed to carry more, to reach farther, to produce fruit that lasts, but with too much clutter, the branches bend under pressure. That's why I stepped in not with wrath, but with wisdom. Every cut was calculated. Every removal had reason. I saw the relationships that were stalling you spiritually. I noticed the mindset that kept you bound to fear. I observed the cycles you convinced yourself were normal, and I said, no more. Not because I was angry with you, but because I was ready for you to flourish. And here's the truth few want to face. Flourishing requires pruning. You prayed for growth, for influence, for effectiveness, but those prayers come with process. You cannot carry increase while still gripping what only served your former season. That comfort zone you cherished, it became a cage, a dull way of thinking. It was clouding your ability to recognize new doors I was opening. So I intervened, gently but firmly. I closed what you kept trying to reopen. I shifted what you tried to stabilize. I removed what you tried to reattach. And now you're standing in the middle of transition, asking if you did something wrong. But child, this isn't discipline, it's development. I prune those I prepare. I prune those I love. You're not being diminished, you're being reshaped for something bigger. The pain is temporary, but the fruit will remain. And though you don't see it yet, these changes will make sense in time. You'll look back and see how what I took away was only blocking what I was about to give. You'll realize that the quiet moments were where your roots grew deeper, that the closed doors protected your integrity. At the isolation birthed new levels of intimacy with me. Pruning may feel like a breaking, but it's actually a blessing in disguise. It forces you to trust what I'm doing behind the scenes, even when the results aren't visible yet. It teaches you to let go of surface approval and go after substance. This isn't just about trimming the outer branches, it's about shaping the inner life. I'm refining your character, sharpening your discernment, and aligning your heart with heaven. What's coming requires a lighter load and a stronger core. And that's exactly what I'm preparing you for. So don't resist the pruning. Don't mislabel this as punishment. I am near you, not because you've done wrong, but because you're ready for more. And when the season shifts and the new fruit begins to show, you'll understand that every cut had a purpose. I wasn't trying to hurt you, I was helping you make room for the abundance you asked for. Trust the process. I prune only what I intend to prosper. I watched you agree to things your heart hesitated over, not because you truly believed it was right, but because you were afraid of what would happen if you said no. You nodded when you wanted to pause. You stepped forward when I was asking you to wait. You made commitments based on fear of disappointing others, fear of missing out, fear of being misunderstood. But child, I didn't create you to live dictated by dread. I formed you to walk by faith. And now, I'm confronting that frightened yes you whispered in moments when your peace was absent but pressure was loud. That agreement might have kept you safe from confrontation, but it pulled you further from clarity. That decision may have calmed your emotions for a while, but it cost you alignment with my voice. And I'm not here to shame you, I'm here to redeem it. I never asked you to move according to panic. I asked you for trust. When you say yes out of fear, it creates openings for confusion to settle, for distraction to multiply, and for your confidence in me to weaken. It becomes a yes that leads to exhaustion, a yes that steals your joy, a yes that keeps you tied to things I never asked you to carry. But obedience, true, Spirit-led obedience, restores everything fear took from you. Obedience doesn't always feel comfortable, but it always leads to peace. It anchors your heart in my will, not in temporary outcomes. And now, I'm asking you to revisit the places where your yes came from survival, not surrender. It's time to evaluate every role you step into just to please others, every path you walk to avoid disappointment, every promise you made just to avoid rocking the boat. Bring them to me. Lay them down. Let me guide you back into alignment. You don't need to keep performing for people who only see your outward strength, but don't understand your inward struggle. You don't need to fulfill expectations I never placed on you. You don't need to carry roles you adopted just to avoid being questioned. My calling on your life will never require manipulation. It will never demand that you abandon your peace just to maintain a public image. Obedience to me may cost you convenience, but it will give you back your clarity. It may stretch your courage, but it will return your soul to stillness. I know it's not easy to undo what you already agreed to. I know walking away feels like failure. But I'm not calling you to failure, I'm calling you to freedom. A terrified yes has run its course. It's time to replace it with a bold, intentional, heaven-born yes. One that isn't rooted in fear of consequences but in assurance of my presence. I want to rewire how you respond. I want your decisions to flow from discernment, not desperation. I want your next yes to be grounded in quiet confidence that you are following me, not appeasing others, not chasing perfection, not avoiding discomfort. And yes, there may be resistance. People might not understand your change in direction. But I will honor your obedience. I will back your yes when it's birthed from trust in me. I will release grace where you once had anxiety. And as you walk away from fear-fueled agreements, I will begin unlocking doors that were meant for you all along, doors that were hidden until you chose obedience over obligation. This is your moment to reset. to reclaim your voice, to say yes again, but this time with faith. This time from a place of knowing that I'm leading and you're following. That's where power flows. That's where burdens lift. That's where miracles begin. Let me have that fearful yes, and in exchange, I'll give you one filled with joy, direction, and divine momentum. You don't need fear to lead you anymore. I'm already doing that. It's time we talk about the things you've held onto so tightly, things you thanked me for, things you called from me, things you never questioned because on the surface, they looked good. They brought you comfort. They made you feel secure. They seemed like answers to prayer. But deep underneath, they've taken up space in your heart that only I should occupy. They've grown larger in your attention than my voice. And slowly, without noticing, what started as gifts became distractions. They became replacements. You didn't mean for it to happen, but somewhere along the way, your affection shifted from the giver to the gift. You started protecting what you should have placed at my feet. You began defending what you should have surrendered. And now, these things, opportunities, relationships, possessions, even titles have become untouchable in your mind. But child, anything that you cannot lay down before me has become your idol. Not every good thing is a God thing. Not every open door is divinely assigned. I know that hurts to hear, especially when you've invested so much into these areas. But I am more concerned about your soul than your comfort. And if I don't confront these hidden altars, they'll quietly draw your loyalty away from me. I've been speaking to you in small ways, nudging you, softening your grip, asking you to take inventory of your heart. But now, I'm being direct. What are you clinging to that once came from me but now keeps you from me? Has the dream become more important than the obedience? Has the platform become louder than my whisper? Has the desire for control disguised itself as stewardship? These are not accusations, they are invitations. I'm calling you back into alignment. Because idols demand everything but give nothing eternal in return. They leave you spiritually dry while pretending to be your source. They promise satisfaction but deliver anxiety. And the longer they remain in the center of your devotion, the quieter my presence feels, not because I've withdrawn, but because your focus has shifted. I'm not asking you to live in fear that every blessing will be taken. I'm asking you to hold them with open hands. To say, Lord, if you want it, it's yours. That's where freedom begins. That's where purity returns. I don't want you walking on eggshells around what I've given. I want you walking in liberty, fully aware that nothing owns you except my love. I want you unburdened by the pressure to keep things that were never meant to be permanent. Because the truth is, some blessings were only meant to pass through, not be clutched. They were signs pointing you back to me, not substitutes for my presence. And now, I'm giving you the courage to lay them down, not in fear, but in faith. Because what I remove, I replace with something deeper. What I ask for, I've already made provision to restore in ways you can't imagine. When Abraham laid Isaac on the altar, he didn't lose a son, he found a revelation. And when you surrender what you've been idolizing, you will find more than peace, you will find me again. Pure, undivided, close. I won't compete with what you elevate above me. But when you choose to place me first, everything else comes into order. That's the real blessing, not the thing, but the alignment. Not the provision, but the presence. Let me recalibrate your heart. Let me show you what was never meant to be worshipped. Let me clear the space that's been cluttered with false importance. Because when I'm at the center, joy flows. When I reign, chaos leaves. When I lead, you don't have to strive to keep it all together. You were made to worship in freedom, not attachment. And today, I'm asking for that exchange. Trade your disguised idols for undeniable intimacy. Lay down what has your attention, and I will fill you with what brings life. It's not a loss. It's a holy release. And from that surrender, you will rise lighter, stronger, and truly free. You've heard voices in your life that sounded encouraging, but their influence quietly led you into performance rather than purpose. They praised your potential, yes, but their praise wasn't rooted in spiritual alignment. It was built on how you made them feel, how you served their comfort, how you elevated their image. And because their words felt like support, you kept listening. You allowed them access to your heart, thinking they saw you, but what they really saw was what they could benefit from. I've watched this quietly. I've seen how their affirmation fueled your need to please, how their presence made you question your convictions when their expectations didn't align with my voice. They offered compliments without correction. They spoke admiration but lacked discernment. They noticed your talent but never nurtured your soul. And now, because what I've called you to do next requires full focus and spiritual clarity, I'm removing what flatters your flesh but starves your faith. I'm not doing it to isolate you, I'm doing it to protect the purity of your calling. Not everyone who appears to be for you actually has your best in mind. Some were drawn to your visibility, not your vulnerability. Some were attracted to your momentum, not your mission. And because you have a heart that longs for peace, you've tolerated influence that was never supposed to shape your identity. But this is a different season. I can no longer allow you to keep voices in your circle that do not carry weight in the spirit. You need people who call forth your character, not just your capability. People who remind you of what I've spoken when your emotions try to pull you elsewhere. People who aren't impressed by your gifts, but are committed to your growth. And yes, removing these other voices might sting. It may feel like a loss at first, especially when they've been close, when they've been there during moments of breakthrough. But their presence has reached its limit. Because as I take you deeper into your purpose, surface-level support won't sustain you. You need those who know how to cover you in prayer, not just cheer for you in public. You need people who will speak correction when needed, who value conviction over convenience. People who are not intimidated by your calling but submitted enough to me to encourage it rightly. If someone must constantly be pleased to stay in your life, they will eventually pressure you to compromise. And I didn't bring you this far for you to shrink under that kind of weight. That's why I'm stepping in. That's why the conversations feel strained. That's why the connection seems to be thinning. I'm making the lines clear. I'm exposing who was assigned by me and who was only attached out of preference. You don't need to explain. You don't need to fix what I'm disassembling. Just trust that what I'm pruning is creating room for what's sacred. I am sending people into your life who speak to your destiny with reverence. People who see you through the lens of eternity, not just temporary success. People who understand that to truly walk with someone means bearing burdens, not just basking in celebrations. Let me make the exchange. Let me detox your atmosphere. I am not asking you to judge hearts, I'm asking you to let me judge fruit. The outcome of their presence in your life matters. Are you growing closer to me when they speak? Are you becoming more anchored in truth when they are near? These are the questions I want you to ask. Because if the voices around you are louder than my voice within you, something needs to shift. I'm silencing the noise that's been mistaken for support. And in its place, I'm giving you discernment so sharp, so clear, that you'll feel it in your spirit when someone is not meant to go further with you. It's not personal. It's prophetic. And the clarity I'm giving now will preserve your peace in the days ahead. Let me finish what I've started. Let me surround you with the kind of people who don't just know your name but call out your soul. You've been crying out for answers, asking me to make the path clear, to remove the fog, to show you what's real and what's not. You pleaded for understanding, whispered in quiet places, "Lord, just give me a sign." And now I am answering. But clarity doesn't always arrive wrapped in comfort. It arrives like a double-edged sword, separating what's holy from what's harmful. It shows you truths that you were once too weary to face. It opens your eyes to what you've tolerated for too long. It exposes misalignments you've been calling normal, and cuts through distractions that have become familiar. I am giving you what you asked for, but it requires something from you in return. It demands honesty. It demands surrender. It demands that you release what no longer belongs, even when part of you still wants to hold on. You see, real clarity never leaves things the same. It confronts. It convicts. It changes how you speak, how you move, how you discern. And once your spirit recognizes truth, you can't unknow it. You can't go back to pretending you didn't hear me. That's the cost to now walk in awareness. To act on what's been revealed. I've shown you the patterns that don't lead to peace. I've highlighted the decisions that bring delay. I've uncovered where compromise has slipped in disguised as kindness. I did this not to overwhelm you, but to awaken you. You asked for light, and I've brought it not just to shine on your next step, but to illuminate the places that needed healing. This clarity will save you from years of misdirection, but it may ask you to leave behind what once felt safe. It may require uncomfortable choices, bold boundaries, and quiet exits from situations you thought you'd never walk away from. But I promise you what feels like loss in this moment will soon reveal itself as mercy. I'm not giving you this insight to break your heart, I'm giving it to rebuild your life. Clarity without action is delay wrapped in disobedience. That's why I'm urging you. Don't delay now. Don't ignore the confirmation you've already received. Don't keep searching for what I've already made plain. I've placed the truth in front of you not to burden you but to release you. Now comes the part where you choose what to do with it. Will you go where I lead, even if it's unfamiliar? Will you let go of what looks stable but is spiritually empty? Will you trust that what I'm pointing to is worth the leap of faith required? Because clarity isn't just about knowing, it's about moving. I'm calling you to act on what's been made visible. Not tomorrow. Now. This moment, right here, is sacred. Don't waste it trying to gather more proof when I've already pierced the fog. Don't ask me again to show what I've already said. You don't need more signs. You need more surrender. The next step is no longer about confirmation, it's about courage. I know it's not easy. I know part of you wishes the answer had been different. But the truth will always lead to freedom, even when it walks through pain. And if you let it, this clarity will break cycles that have held you hostage for years. This clarity will sharpen your sight so you stop choosing based on pressure and start living from purpose. You're not being pushed, you're being positioned. You're not losing your way, you're stepping into it. Let the clarity cost you something. Let it disrupt your old routines. Let it call you into alignment. Because once you choose to obey what I've revealed, peace will flood in. Doors will open that confusion once blocked. Strength will rise where fear used to sit. And you will realize that what looked like a painful answer was actually your pathway to destiny. So yes, you prayed for clarity, and I've given it. Now walk in it with boldness, with peace, and with the full knowledge that I go before you in every step. I've watched you return to it again and again, hoping that just one more attempt might make it open. You've cried in front of it. You've reasoned with yourself. You've convinced your heart that maybe this time, things will be different. But that door, the one you've been drawn back to over and over, remains shut not because I haven't heard your prayers, but because I've already closed it with intention. I didn't lock it to torment you. I secured it to redirect you. You've been asking me why it won't budge, why no matter how much you push or how sincerely you ask, the outcome stays the same. And I say to you now, it's because what's behind that door no longer serves the purpose I've placed before you. It once looked like the right way. It once felt like home. But something shifted. What was once permissible is no longer beneficial. That door leads to an old version of you, one I've already called forward from. If I let it reopen, it would anchor you to patterns I'm trying to free you from. It would keep you walking in circles when I've already paved a new path in another direction. You keep asking for a key, but I'm not handing you one. I'm handing you release. I'm handing you peace to walk away without needing every answer. That door symbolizes what you thought was best, what your heart desired, what your mind reasoned, what your emotions craved, but I see further than you. I see what waits on the other side, and if I allowed it, it would dilute your destiny, distract your focus, and deter your calling. Some delays aren't meant to be overcome, they are warnings that you've reached the end of that path, I'm not withholding a blessing. I'm withholding a burden you would have carried if you forced that door open. And you're tired not because the journey is long, but because you're stuck at a threshold I've already walked away from. You've been trying to convince yourself that this is persistence. But persistence in the wrong direction isn't faith, it's resistance. It's time to turn away, not out of defeat, but with determination to find the door I've actually prepared for you. The one that doesn't need to be forced. The one that will swing open when you arrive, not by your strength, but by my appointment. I know it's painful to walk away from something you wanted to work. I know it hurts to lay down what you believed was your breakthrough. But I'm asking you to trust that I close what I know is unfit for where I'm taking you. This isn't the end of your story, it's the protection of your story. The longer you knock, the more you'll exhaust your faith trying to revive something I've already released you from. Let that be the last time you knock there. Let it be the moment you choose to believe that no closed door in me ever leads to a closed future. There's another door. It may not look like what you expected. It may not come with the same familiarity. But it will carry my breath. It will bear my fingerprint. It will align with your peace, not compete with it. The door I open won't make you question your worth, compromise your identity, or silence your discernment. It won't require begging. It won't demand performance. It will be the place where your yes finally meets my timing. But I can't lead you there if you're still camped at a place I've left behind. So lift your hand from that handle, dry your tears, and lift your eyes. I have more to show you, but you must let go of what is no longer yours to pursue. The door you keep knocking on. It's locked for a reason, and the moment you release it, the real journey begins. There's something I need you to face, not because I'm angry, but because I want to set you free. You've told yourself that you're waiting on me, that you're being still in faith, that you're choosing patience. But deep down, you know that what you've labeled as spiritual waiting is often just quiet avoidance. You've been putting off difficult decisions. You've postponed action not because you're surrendered, but because you're afraid of the cost. You've waited for things to get easier before stepping out. You've postponed confronting what needs to be acknowledged. And in doing so, you've traded movement for delay, calling it timing when it's really fear dressed in reverence. But I don't want you stuck in this disguised paralysis any longer. You don't need more time, you need more truth. And the truth is, you already know what I've asked of you. I've placed the conviction in your heart. I've stirred your spirit. I've nudged you gently. I've confirmed it again and again. But because the next step feels uncomfortable, you've been waiting for a more convenient version of obedience. You said, I'm just waiting for clarity, but what you really want is confirmation that costs nothing. You said, I'm giving this space, when what you're really doing is stalling. But child, I cannot bless what you refuse to confront. I cannot fill hands that won't release what they're still holding. I need you to stop confusing stillness with hesitation. Patience is a posture of peace while trusting me. Avoidance, on the other hand, quietly partners with delay and slowly drains your courage. You weren't made to fear clarity. You were made to walk in it. And right now, clarity has already come. It's your response that's being tested. I know you want it to feel easier. I know you're hoping the resistance will fade before you act. But sometimes the most powerful obedience is the kind that moves forward with trembling hands, trusting that I will steady your steps as you go. This isn't about rushing. It's about being honest with yourself. Ask the hard questions. Are you truly waiting on me, or are you using waiting as a shield from discomfort? Is your delay the result of reverence or reluctance? Because what I want for you isn't just bold obedience, it's healed perception. I want you to see that obedience doesn't always feel emotionally smooth. Sometimes it will stretch your faith until it shakes. Sometimes it will feel like stepping off a ledge, not knowing where your foot will land. But that's where my presence is strongest, in the space where your faith begins and your fears must bow. If you keep waiting for fear to vanish before you move, you'll miss the moments where miracles were waiting to meet you mid-step. I've never asked you to be fearless, I've asked you to be faithful. And faith often requires movement before comfort arrives. This is the part where you trade hesitation for honesty. This is where you say, Lord, I've been calling this patience, but you're showing me it's time to act. And I will meet you in that moment with strength. I will flood you with courage. You'll feel the power of my Spirit rising within you, not because the fear is gone, but because you finally decided to move through it. And once you do, you'll see the chains that held you back weren't as strong as they felt. You'll look back on what you called patience and realize it was me, gently waiting for you to choose trust. So today, choose it. Choose truth over delay. Choose action over comfort. Choose faith over fear. I'm not asking you to sprint, I'm asking you to step. I'll handle the rest. You've waited long enough. Now let obedience lead you forward. You've been so focused on where you're going that you've assumed what's behind you is settled. You thought the chapters were closed, that the old wounds were forgotten, that the damage was too far gone to matter now. But I see it all not to shame you, but to restore what was left behind. I'm not simply preparing you for what's next. I'm reaching back into places you thought I'd abandoned. I'm going into the memories you buried because they were too painful to carry into your present. I'm stepping into the places where choices were made in confusion, where mistakes were followed by silence, where regret quietly became part of your inner vocabulary. You haven't spoken of these things to many, but they've whispered to you in quiet moments. They've influenced how you see yourself, how you trust others, how you approach your own calling. And I want to bring healing there, not by erasing the past, but by writing what it means. You see, I'm not limited by time. What was broken back then can still be redeemed now. What you mishandled in one season, I can rebuild into something beautiful in this one. But first, you must allow me to go there. You must let me access the rooms you've kept locked, the ones filled with questions, with shame, with what-ifs that still echo inside you. I know what happened. I know what was said. I know the decisions you wish you could undo. But child, I didn't disqualify you then, and I won't start now. I don't just move forward with you, I move through every moment with the power to make it new. That failure you keep reliving, I'm redeeming it. That season of rebellion you still regret, I'm restoring what it stole. That relationship you poured into and lost yourself in, I'm reestablishing your identity beyond it. But this work requires your permission. I won't force my way, and I wait for your surrender. When you allow me to correct the past, it's not to relive it. It's to reclaim what the enemy tried to steal from it. Because every memory saturated with guilt can become a monument of my mercy. Every tear you cried alone back then becomes part of the river that flows into your healing now. I'm bringing justice to injustices you thought were overlooked. I'm releasing closure where you thought confusion would live forever. And no, it won't change what happened, but it will change how it holds you. I'm severing the soul ties that keep dragging yesterday into today. I'm silencing the voices that made you feel less than. I'm confronting the agreements you made in fear that still affect how you dream. I'm rewriting your history not to erase truth, but to reveal grace. Because the past, when surrendered to me, becomes a testimony, and it comes over wisdom, over anointing, and view over your purpose. I want to teach you how to walk in full freedom, not pretending the past didn't happen, but knowing that it has no power to control your future. What once defined your pain will now reflect my power, and you won't have to carry the weight of pretending anymore. I'm lifting it. I'm cleansing it. I'm rewriting it line by line with mercy and truth. So stop disqualifying yourself based on where you've been. I was with you then, and I'm with you now. Invite me into every chapter, not just the ones that look polished. Because I use the whole story. And when I'm done restoring the broken paragraphs, you'll realize that even your lowest moments were leading you here. Not to shame, but to resurrection. Let me in. Let me finish what I started, past, present, and what's still to come. Because nothing you've lived through is wasted when it's surrendered into my hands. You've been shouldering responsibilities, emotions, and expectations that I never placed in your hands. Somewhere along the way, you began picking up burdens that weren't meant for you, trying to hold everything together, trying to be the answer for everyone, trying to prove you're enough by doing more than what I ever asked. You said yes when your heart was crying for rest. You've absorbed pressure from others that was never your portion. You've worn strength like armor, but inside, you've been quietly unraveling. And I see it, not just the exhaustion in your body, but the heaviness in your spirit. You were never created to carry the world on your shoulders. That was my role. You've taken on assignments that weren't yours because guilt whispered, you have to. You've tried to control outcomes because fear convinced you it was safer that way. But all it's done is wear you down. It isn't surrender, it's silent striving. And it slowly drained your joy. I never told you to manage their emotions. I never asked you to fix what's broken in every person around you. I never called you to perform to feel accepted. I invited you to walk with me, not run ahead in panic. You are overwhelmed not because your life is unmanageable, but because you've been managing things without my instruction. And now I'm asking you to lay them down. Every unnecessary obligation, every unspoken expectation, every role you stepped into out of pressure, not purpose. Place them at my feet. This isn't failure, it's freedom. You were not meant to be everyone's solution. You were meant to follow my voice and carry only what I've graced you to bear. That's where peace returns, not in doing more, but in doing what's truly assigned. I know you think walking away from certain burdens will disappoint people. I know you fear the judgment, the misunderstanding, the questions. But what's more important, pleasing everyone or being free enough to follow me? I'm not asking you to abandon your responsibilities, I'm asking you to discern which ones are truly yours. Because when you carry what I give, there is strength, there is provision, there is grace. But when you carry what I didn't give, there is burnout, there is confusion, there is weariness. You weren't designed for that. And that's why I'm intervening now, not to criticize your effort, but to rescue your energy. You've been trying to be dependable, and I honor your heart. But child, I am the only one truly capable of holding it all. Let me take what you've been silently carrying. Let me handle what's been breaking your back in places no one sees. I'm not asking for perfection, I'm asking for trust. When you place your burdens in my hands, I don't drop them. I don't delay. I don't diminish what you've been through. I lift them, one by one, until your soul breathes again. You'll feel lighter, not because your life changed overnight, but because your load did. This is what it means to walk in step with me. Not carrying everything, not solving every problem, not being everything to everyone. Just being obedient, present, and whole. That's your assignment. That's your portion. Let go of what I never gave. Let go of roles you stepped into out of fear. Let go of expectations that drown your spirit. Come back to the center where it's just me and you, and the path I've written, not the one others drew for you. That's where you will find your strength again. Not in picking up more, but in laying down what was never yours to begin with. You've poured so much of yourself into keeping something alive that I've already asked you to release. You've tried to rescue what I've been gently loosening your grip from. Not because you're disobedient, but because you care deeply. Because you thought your love could fix what only my presence could heal. Because you've tied your identity to an outcome I'm no longer blessing. And now you're worn out, questioning if you failed. But hear me clearly. You were never meant to be the savior I am. I never asked you to carry the weight of restoring what I've marked for removal. I didn't invite you to rebuild what I've already called finished. What you're trying to preserve out of loyalty, I'm calling you to surrender out of obedience. This isn't abandonment. It's alignment. There are seasons where holding on becomes heavier than letting go, where fighting for something starts to fight against your own peace. And I see how you've confused surrender with giving up. But they are not the same. Giving up is defeat. Surrender is trust. Surrender says, even though I don't understand, I release what I cannot change and give it to the one who can. I know your heart has been in the right place. I know your intentions were pure. But sometimes, your efforts prolong pain when they're rooted in fear instead of faith. You've begged me to breathe life into what you built, but I'm asking you to let me create something completely new. Because what you're trying to protect has become a barrier to the next step I've called you to take. You've wrapped your hands around a situation, a dream, a person, a place, trying to preserve it out of memory, out of investment, out of hope. But not everything you start is meant to last forever. Some things serve a purpose and then release you. But when you refuse to let go, you keep yourself stuck in an outdated chapter while I'm already writing the next one. You've said, "But I've come so far." Yes, and I honor that. But coming far doesn't mean it's meant to continue. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say, "This season is over," and walk away with dignity, knowing your worth isn't tied to whether or not it lasted. I know it's scary. I know surrender feels like silence at first. But I promise, once you place it into my hands, you'll see why I asked for it. You'll see what I was trying to protect you from. You'll understand that by letting it go, you're making space for me to do what only I can do. And what I bring next will require constant repair. It won't leave you second-guessing whether you're loved. It won't demand that you sacrifice your peace to maintain its place in your life. It will come with clarity. It will come with confirmation. It will come with rest. But first, the release. I know what you've invested. I know what you hoped it would become. But I also know what's ahead, and I cannot let you carry dead weight into a season that demands full focus. You keep asking me to save it, but I'm asking you to surrender it. You keep pleading for revival, but I've already made the call for closure. Trust that my no is not rejection, it's redirection. Trust that what's falling apart is often me removing what can no longer be rebuilt without compromise. I didn't create you to live in cycles. I called you to move in purpose. And purpose sometimes requires a holy release. So loosen your grip. Breathe deeply. And hand it over. Because what I'm preparing for you won't need saving. It will be sustained by my hand, not held together by your fear. That's the kind of life I have for you, unmarked by freedom, not constant fixing. One where surrender unlocks the supernatural. What you're facing right now may feel like resistance, like the heavens have gone quiet, like you're fighting battles that never end. But don't mistake the pressure for punishment. I'm not punishing you, I'm preparing you. Every tear, every unanswered question, every closed door, every moment of feeling unseen, it's part of something deeper I'm doing in you. I know you want out. I know you've prayed for me to lift the weight. But if you saw what I see on the other side of this season, you'd understand why I'm allowing the refining. What I've promised you cannot be carried by the person you used to be. That's why I'm strengthening your capacity, not through ease, but through endurance. This struggle isn't a sign that you're off course. It's evidence that you're on holy ground, being shaped for something greater. I know the days feel heavy, but growth often hides in hardship. I'm forging things in your spirit that cannot be formed in comfort. I'm carving out resilience, sharpening your focus, expanding your trust. You've asked me to enlarge your territory. This is how it begins. Not with applause, but with pressure. Not with perfection, but with perseverance. I never said the road would be smooth. I said I'd walk it with you. And I have. Even when you couldn't feel me, even when everything in you wanted to give up, I was holding you together. Preparation doesn't always look like progress from the outside. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it feels like wilderness. But in those hidden places, I'm doing my deepest work. You've wanted quick solutions, but I'm interested in lasting strength. Because what I'm calling you to walk into will require more than excitement, it will require maturity. And that's what I'm building. I'm training your spiritual muscles to stand when the spotlight is gone. I'm teaching your heart to lean on truth when feelings falter. I'm anchoring your hope in me, not in outcomes. That way, when the blessing comes, it won't shake you. It won't overwhelm you. You won't sabotage it trying to control it. because you'll know you were prepared for it. This isn't punishment, child. This is divine conditioning. I'm not tearing you down. I'm stripping away what would have held you back. The habits, the mindsets, the wins. I'm making space inside of you for what I'm about to release. You keep asking me, why now? And I say to you, because I see you're ready, even if you don't feel it. You're stronger than you know. You've survived seasons you never thought you'd get through. You've clung to faith when you had no answers. And I've watched that faith, watered by tears, grow into something unshakable. Don't run from the refining. Let it complete its work. What feels like a breakdown is really a build-up in disguise. I'm layering you with wisdom. I'm covering you in discernment. I'm anchoring you in humility. So when the doors open, when the platform expands, when the influence increases, you won't forget me. You won't lose yourself. You won't compromise truth for acceptance. Because you will know that the struggle didn't defeat you, it developed you. You'll walk into the promise with scars, yes, but they'll be proof of the process. You won't need validation because you'll carry evidence. You won't fear the future because you'll know who carried you through the furnace. So don't curse the challenge. Don't retreat from the battle. This is not the end. It's the equipping. It's the training ground for the territory I'm giving you. Let the refining finish its course. Because what I'm preparing in you now will sustain the blessings I'm about to place on your life. You're not being punished, you're being positioned. And when the moment comes, you'll understand that every bit of pain had purpose, every delay had design, and every struggle was sacred. I know it hurt when they left. I saw the way you tried to hold it together while wondering what went wrong, why they pulled away, what more you could have done. But I need you to understand this. Their departure was not your destruction, it was your deliverance. I allowed the separation not to break you, but to begin healing you in ways you didn't even realize you needed. You were giving pieces of your heart to people who didn't honor the depth of your spirit. You were staying connected to those who were only meant to pass through, not plant roots. You didn't see it then, but I did. I saw how their presence slowed your growth, how their words chipped away at your confidence, how their expectations shaped your behavior more than my truth did. And because I love you too deeply to let that continue, I allowed the disconnect. I didn't cause their betrayal, but I used it to reveal what was hidden. I used their absence to create space for truth, space for clarity, space for me. You thought their proximity equaled peace. But the silence after their exit brought more stillness than their presence ever did. That's when you began to hear me again. That's when the fog started lifting. That's when your heart stopped adjusting itself to fit into a mold I never designed for you. Let me be clear, this isn't about bitterness. This is about liberation. I'm not exposing them to shame them, I'm elevating you beyond dependence on their approval. Because if they had stayed, you would have continued building your sense of worth on unstable ground. You would have kept thinking to maintain the connection. You would have delayed your own healing trying to hold together what was never yours to preserve. I had to let them go so that you could finally look inward without distraction. So that you could stop editing yourself for the sake of someone else's comfort. So that your healing would no longer be contingent on whether or not they understood your worth. I know you missed parts of what was. The laughter, the history, the familiar rhythm. But don't romanticize what I've already released you from. Memory is not the same as destiny. I'm doing something new in you, something that requires a clean space, emotionally and spiritually. It doesn't mean you won't feel the loss. But even in that ache, I am working. Even in the tears, I am building. I'm teaching you how to be whole without being dependent. How to be grounded in my affirmation rather than someone else's presence. This is where your healing goes deeper, not just from what they did, but from what you believed about yourself because of how they treated you. I'm rewiring those lies. I'm restoring what was lost when you tried to earn love that was never freely given. And here's the truth. Their exit made room for real connection. I'm sending people who see you not the image you present, but the heart you carry. People who won't drain your strength but protect your peace. people who don't require performance to stay present. But you would have missed them if you stayed entangled in what I've already untied. So yes, I let them walk. And yes, it left a void. But it also opened a door for healing that goes beyond surface comfort. I am your healer, and I'm not just treating the symptoms. I'm going to the root of abandonment, the root of insecurity, the root of trying to prove yourself. And I'm pulling them out one by one so that what grows next will be unshakable. Let it go fully. Don't look back longing for wholly delayed your becoming. This part of your journey is sacred, even in its solitude. Because this is where I rebuild you, not around people, but around my presence. And once the healing is complete, you'll know this wasn't rejection. It was realignment. You've been watching the clock, measuring progress by the standards of the world, comparing your pace to others, and silently wondering if you're behind. You started treating time as a judge rather than a tool in my hands. You've attached worth to deadlines, urgency to milestones, and pressure to promises. And though you may not say it aloud, your actions reveal that you've given timing more authority than me. You keep thinking, if it doesn't happen by now, maybe it never will. But I don't work within the framework of your calendar. I function according to eternal design. And when you idolize timing, you begin to idolize control. You begin to believe that if the clock doesn't align with your expectation, something must be wrong. You begin to question not just the process, but my heart for you. I need to address that right here. My love for you is not proven by speed, it's revealed through faithfulness. What I've planned for you is not on pause because I forgot. It's unfolding with precision, even in the moments that feel stagnant. The delay you perceive is not denial, it's orchestration. I am arranging things you cannot yet see, clearing paths you don't even know exist. Timing, in your hands, creates stress. In mine, it builds strength. You've looked at others and wondered why their doors opened faster, why their dreams manifested sooner. But their story is not yours. What's growing inside of you requires a unique season, a depth of development, a layer of refinement that cannot be rushed. You're not being overlooked. You're being prepared with intentionality. If I gave you the promise before you were ready, it would overwhelm you. If I released you into it without equipping your spirit, it would crush the calling. I care too much about you to accelerate something that still needs nurturing. I know you feel like you're waiting while others are arriving. I know you feel like time is slipping through your hands. But I hold time. I authored it. And what I've written for your life cannot be stolen, delayed, or missed when you walk in obedience. You keep watching the clock, but I'm asking you to watch me. Fix your gaze not on what hasn't happened yet, but on who I've been in every moment along the way. I've sustained you through disappointments. I've walked with you through questions. I've whispered peace into sleepless nights. I've been consistent even when the schedule wasn't. That's the miracle you've missed in your waiting, not just the outcome, but the relationship that's deepened along the way. Because when you release your grip on time, you begin to receive peace. Peace that doesn't panic when the calendar moves forward. Peace that doesn't demand that every year looks like growth. Peace that trusts that if I'm in it, the timing is never wrong. I'm not working on a countdown, I'm working in divine rhythm. And when the moment comes, it will not be forced. It will not be confusing. It will come with clarity, confirmation, and calm. But right now, I'm asking you to surrender the idol, to tear down the altar you've built to timelines, and build a new one called trust. I'm inviting you to stop measuring how far you think you are and start focusing on who I've been forming you to become. What's coming is not small. It's not late. It's just sacred. And sacred things are not rushed, they are revealed. Let go of the timeline you've been worshiping. It was never meant to be your master. Let me lead you by peace, not pressure. Let me guide you by purpose, not panic. My timing is not just better, it's perfect. And when you fully trust it, you'll realize you weren't waiting to be worthy. You were waiting to be ready. And now, you're closer than you've ever been. You've been mourning something you thought was meant to be yours. You poured your hope into it. You envisioned your future around it. You shaped your prayers expecting that door to swing open. And when it didn't, when it closed without explanation, your heart broke. You questioned whether you missed a sign. You wondered if you failed to discern my voice. But I need to speak to that place in you that still aches for what never came to pass. That opportunity you wanted so badly was never your assignment. It wasn't the path I planned. It was a path that looked promising, but would have quietly pulled you away from me. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. And what you saw as loss was actually mercy in motion. You thought it was alignment, but it was illusion. You saw what it could give you, but I saw what it would cost you. I saw how slowly it would shift your priorities. I saw how it would alter your posture from faith to striving. I saw the hidden traps, the emotional weight, the spiritual compromise. And because you couldn't see what I did, you saw my protection as punishment. But child, I will always interrupt what threatens your soul even when it looks like a blessing on the outside. Some doors sparkle with promise but are hollow on the inside. Some platforms offer attention but rob you of peace. Some relationships appear divinely timed but are rooted in manipulation. That's why I shut what you tried to open. That's why I remove your hand, even when your heart begged to hold on. You asked me to guide you. You asked me to protect your path. This is what that protection looks like, shielding you from lesser things that would have stolen your focus, your energy, and your calling. You've been grieving the what if, but I've already secured the what's next. You've been replaying the moment it slipped away, but I've been preparing the place that's built to hold what I've placed in you. You don't need to revisit what I've removed. You don't need to redefine it or regret it. You need to release it. Not everything you desire is meant to be developed. Some things were only meant to test your trust. And now, I'm asking you to let it fall from your hands so I can place in them something eternal. You've been walking with disappointment heavy on your shoulders, but I'm lifting it now. I'm showing you the truth behind the no. I'm revealing the wisdom hidden in the waiting. What didn't work out didn't mean you were unworthy. It meant I had something greater, something lasting, something that carries my anointing instead of just your ambition. I know it felt like the right fit. I know you imagined your future wrapped around it. But your future isn't in what you missed, it's in what I'm leading you toward. Stop calling it failure when it was favor. Stop grieving what I've already replaced with something better in the spirit. Soon, you'll see why I said no. Soon, you'll realize the peace you feel now wasn't possible in what you were chasing. You'll thank me not just for what I gave, but for what I refused to give. And when the right door opens, when the right people step in, when the right place emerges, you'll walk into it with eyes that can finally see what's real from what only appeared right. Don't carry yesterday's disappointment into today's obedience. Don't let a temporary setback plant seeds of bitterness. Let me show you what I've been working on behind the scenes. Let me refresh your vision. Let me restore your expectation. You didn't miss it, you dodged it. You didn't lose something precious, you were spared something poisonous. And now, it's time to move forward. Because what's ahead isn't disguised, it's designed by my hand, and it's waiting for your yes. You've been staring at the wreckage, trying to make sense of why something that once felt so certain unraveled before your eyes. You keep going back to the moment it slipped through your fingers, trying to rewind the memory, wondering if you missed a step, made a wrong turn, misunderstood my leading. But child, hear me clearly now. What fell apart didn't fall outside of my knowledge. I saw it coming before it ever cracked. I didn't stand by it and let you suffer without a reason. I allowed it because I knew what you were building was no longer strong enough to support where I'm taking you. I allowed the breaking because there's something better being born, something that can't be formed until the old structure gives way. You thought you lost progress. You thought you lost opportunity. You thought you lost time. But you didn't lose anything I intended for you to keep. What collapsed wasn't your foundation, it was what stood in the way of it. You've been treating the end of that season like it's the end of your purpose, but it's not. It's the clearing of what was temporary, making room for what is timeless. I'm not afraid of things falling apart. In fact, I often allow them to, so I can rebuild with purity and power. You see dust and ashes, I see raw material. I see a blank canvas. I see space to do something I couldn't do before. You were holding up walls that were already compromised. You were reinforcing what I had already marked for removal. I let it fall not to discourage you, but to deliver you from self-dependence, from misplaced hope, from the illusion that you had to sustain everything on your own. This isn't the end. This is a beginning just in disguise. You may not understand it now, but you'll look back and thank me for the collapse. Because what I am constructing in this new season won't demand your strength to survive. It will flow with my breath, my favor, my fire. The better that's coming won't carry the strain of the former. It won't need constant fixing. It will require you to prove your worth to maintain its place. It will fit you in a way the old never did. It will nourish your soul instead of exhausting your heart. But you have to stop clinging to what crumbled. You have to stop asking me to resurrect what I allowed to rest. You can't receive what's next if your hands are still holding pieces of the past, trying to rebuild something I've moved on from. I don't patch old systems, I establish new structures. I don't revive what no longer aligns, I birth what carries eternal weight. Trust the fall. Trust that I'm not just letting go of things around you, I'm inviting you to rise above what once limited you. That's what the better looks like. It's not just shinier. It's deeper. It's rooted in my timing, carried by my grace, fueled by my spirit. You didn't fail. The dream didn't die. It shifted. It matured. And now, it's growing into something more aligned with my heart than you even imagined. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it hurts. But pain doesn't always mean punishment. Sometimes, it's the pressure required to push what's inside of you to the surface. Don't rush to rebuild out of panic. Let me rebuild with precision. Let me lay the foundation. Let me show you what I had in mind all along. And when it rises, when the better begins to bloom, you'll understand why I didn't allow you to settle for less. You'll see the beauty that came out of the breaking. And you'll say with confidence, not confusion, it was good that it fell. Because now, I've seen what only grace could build. I've seen the weariness settle in your eyes as you wait. I've felt the tension in your heart as you wrestle between hope and disappointment. You've whispered questions into the night, asking if maybe you misunderstood, if maybe you dreamed too big, if maybe you should stop expecting anything at all. And through all of it, I've been silent, not because I've withdrawn, but because I've been working. You see, the silence of heaven is not the absence of movement. It's the sound of divine construction. While you've waited, I've been weaving together details too complex for your understanding. I haven't abandoned what I spoke over your life. I'm simply preparing the fullness of it. You measure time by minutes, I measure it by readiness. I know exactly when to bring the right door, the right person, the right opportunity, the right release. And if it hasn't arrived yet, it's not because I forgot, it's because I've been perfecting. Every promise has its appointed hour, and yours has not passed you by. I didn't tease you with a vision only to leave you empty. I gave you that glimpse to anchor your faith during the in-between. And I know the in-between is where it hurts the most. It's the place where doubts creep in, where comparisons cloud your confidence, where the enemy whispers that your turn will never come. But let me remind you now, my word does not return void. If I said it, I will do it. If I planted it in your spirit, I will bring it to life in mine. Your timeline is not the standard I operate by. I'm not bound to what others say should have already happened. I'm not late, I'm intentional. And I'm not asking you to understand all the delays, I'm asking you to trust the one who holds the schedule. You've been faithful in the quiet seasons, and I've taken note of every unseen act of obedience. You've shown up when no one clapped. You've stayed when others walked away. You've prayed even when nothing changed. That kind of faith doesn't go unnoticed, it's the very soil in which my promises bloom. But like any seed, what grows first is hidden. Underground. In darkness. Before the breakthrough is visible, the roots must strengthen. And that's what this waiting has been about. Root work. Foundation. Deepening your reliance on me so when the blessing comes, you won't build on excitement alone, you'll build on endurance. Don't misread the silence. Don't mislabel the delay. I haven't canceled what I planned. I'm simply positioning everything with precision. The doors I'm opening won't need forcing. The people I'm sending won't require performance. The opportunities I'm preparing won't contradict your peace. But they need the right conditions to arrive. Would you want something right and fragile or something complete and unshakable? That's what I'm giving you. Something built to last. Something that doesn't just touch your life but impacts others through it. That's why I've been taking my time not to torture you, but to trust you with more than what you asked for. The waiting room is not the end of your story. It's the place where I prepare you for what's next. So lift your head. Dry your tears. Strengthen your heart again. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not overlooked. You are right where I need you to be while I complete the details you don't yet see. And when the promise arrives, you'll know it was me, not chance, not coincidence, not luck. Me, your God, your Father, your provider. I didn't forget you. I've been preparing you. And soon, what you've been waiting for will walk through the door you didn't even realize I was building. Delay is not denial. Delay is design. You keep waiting for the moment you feel qualified, for the signal that your strength is enough, that your confidence is perfect, that every weakness is erased. You've convinced yourself that only when you're fully prepared can you step into what I've placed before you. But that was never my requirement. I didn't call the equipped, I equipped those who said yes. I'm not waiting on you to become flawless. I'm waiting on you to become available. What I've asked of you is not to have every answer or solution, but to trust me enough to move forward with what you do have. Willingness is what activates the miraculous. When you say, "Here I am," even with shaking hands and a trembling voice, I say, "Watch what I can do through that surrender." You keep hesitating, not because you lack calling, but because you've believed the lie that readiness is a prerequisite. But readiness is not always visible. It's often revealed in motion. You become more ready as you obey, not before. And I know what you're thinking. What if I mess it up? What if I fall short? But I don't measure your worth by your perfection, I measure it by your trust. A willing heart says, "Lord, I don't know what's next, but I'm open." And that openness is the doorway I use to release heaven's resources into your situation. The truth is, you'll never feel fully prepared for what I've called you to do, because your flesh will always argue against faith. But I didn't create you to live by what you feel, I created you to walk by what I've said. And I've said you are chosen. I've said you are mine. I've said you are appointed for such a time as this. So when I call, don't stall trying to become the version of yourself you think I need. Just show up with all your imperfections, all your questions, all your limitations, and say yes. It was never your strength that was going to carry this anyway, it was mine. Look back at the ones I used throughout history. None of them were polished. None of them were perfect. They doubted. They stumbled. They second-guessed. But they were willing. Willing to go when I said move. Willing to speak when I gave them words. Willing to surrender when I redirected their steps. That's what I'm looking for now. A performance partnership. I want to walk with you, work through you, shake the world around you with my light shining through your life. But it begins with a heart that stops delaying and starts saying, even if I don't feel it, I will follow. Stop disqualifying yourself because of what you think you lack. I already accounted for it. I'm not surprised by your fears. I'm not disappointed in your hesitations. But I am calling you to lay them down. Because every moment you wait to feel worthy is a moment the world waits for the light I placed in you. They don't need a version of you that's polished, they need the one that's present. The one that shows up even when it's scary. The one that speaks when it's inconvenient. the one that chooses me over comfort. That's the one I'm using. And I promise, as you move with me, I will provide what's missing. I will fill what's empty. I will cover what's weak. I will shine through what's broken. But I need your willingness. That's where the miracles begin, not when you're confident, but when you're committed. So are you willing to believe that my power is enough? To trust that your yes is the key to unlocking what I've already prepared? You don't need more signs. You don't need more time. You don't need to wait until you feel bold. You need to believe that when I call you, I've already made a way. This isn't about being ready, it's about being willing. Say yes and watch me do the rest. You cry out for calm, for rest, for stillness of the heart, and I hear those prayers clearly. But peace does not arrive simply because you ask. It grows in the soil of surrender. You want the storm to stop, but you resist letting go of the very things that keep the thunder in motion. You want quiet in your spirit, but you continue feeding your soul with noise, overthinking, overanalyzing, overstaying in situations I've already told you to release. I'm not withholding peace from you. I'm showing you the path to it. But the truth is, peace is a fruit of alignment, not a feeling you stumble into. It comes when you stop trying to control outcomes. It begins when you stop rehearsing every what if and start resting in my I am. You've been wrestling with anxiety, not because I've disappeared, but because you've been gripping things I never asked you to carry. You want me to calm the chaos around you, but I want to quiet the war within you. And that happens not through wishing, but through walking away from what disturbs your spirit, walking toward obedience, even when it feels unfamiliar, walking in truth, even when your emotions try to lie to you. You say, Lord, give me peace, but then you return to conversations that reopen wounds. You replay moments that foster shame. You engage with thoughts that create confusion. And I'm asking you, gently but clearly, to break those cycles. Peace isn't a reward for getting everything right. It's the result of staying close to me, even when everything feels uncertain. It's what settles your soul when your surroundings still swirl. But peace cannot coexist with patterns that contradict my presence. I've been inviting you to lay down your desire for control, not because I want you weak, but because I want you free. You think letting go means defeat, but it's the doorway to deliverance. You think holding on keeps you safe, but it's the very thing that keeps your mind spinning and your heart restless. Real peace costs something. It will cost your pride. It will cost your habit of self-preservation. It will cost your addiction to always needing answers. But what it gives in return, clarity, rest, holy confidence, far outweighs the price. You've known what it's like to walk through your days carrying unseen burdens, trying to smile while your soul sinks under pressure. That is not the life I've designed for you. I never called you to survive through storms while pretending you're not drowning. I called you to walk through valleys without fear because you know I'm right beside you. That's what peace does. It anchors you in the unseen. It grounds you when circumstances shake. It whispers truth louder than every lie your anxiety tries to tell. But you cannot access it while clinging to counterfeit comfort. You cannot receive peace if you refuse to release the need for answers before obedience. Stop trying to feel your way into rest. Trust your way into it. My peace is not fragile. It doesn't depend on good news. It's rooted in the eternal. It's found in the secret place where your striving ends and my presence takes over. I'm not asking you to pretend you're okay. I'm inviting you to bring the chaos into my hands and let me still it. Not just the storm around you, the one within. Let me silence the inner critic. Let me settle the voice of fear. Let me wash away the need to figure it all out. You say you want peace, then follow me into the places that require faith. Choose forgiveness when bitterness feels easier. Choose silence when defense feels justified. Choose letting go when holding on feels safer. Each of those choices builds peace. You've waited for the emotion to show up. Now wait in my presence, and you'll see it was never far. It's just been waiting on your surrender. What you're carrying now, this hunger, This deep sense that something is changing inside you is not sudden. It's the result of layers I've been forming over time, quietly, patiently. While you were busy trying to get through the day, I was working in places you didn't even know needed attention. I wasn't in a hurry, because what I'm building in you isn't shallow, it's sacred. You've looked around and seen others moving faster, achieving more, stepping into spotlight moments while you've remained hidden. And you wondered if you were being overlooked, if maybe your pace was too slow, if your delay was a reflection of failure. But I've been doing something far greater than speed. I've been crafting depth. You see, I'm not interested in temporary growth that looks impressive from a distance but crumbles under pressure. I'm establishing something in you that will withstand fire, storms, and silence. And that kind of construction doesn't happen overnight. You can't microwave maturity. You can't shortcut intimacy. You can't fabricate faith that's rooted in me. That's why I've taken my time. That's why I've let certain doors remain shut. That's why I didn't allow every opportunity to land at your feet just yet. Because I wasn't just preparing the path, I was preparing you to walk it without losing yourself. You've asked me for more purpose, more impact, more confirmation. But what I've been doing is giving you more of me. Because what you're truly called to do cannot be sustained by talent alone. It has to be anchored in character. And character is formed in process, not in applause, not in platforms, but in the unseen moments of obedience. That's what I've been shaping. I've been training your eyes to see beyond what's visible. Training your ears to recognize my whisper even when the noise is loud. Training your spirit to move when I say move, not when comfort says it's time. I know it's been frustrating. I know you've questioned my timing. But what I'm birthing in you isn't small. It's going to shift atmospheres. It's going to break chains. It's going to call people back to me. And that kind of weight requires spiritual muscle you can't get from shortcuts. You needed this foundation. You needed the stretching. You needed the seasons where nothing made sense so your trust could grow roots. Because when the moment comes, and it will, you won't be wondering if you're ready. You'll know. You'll know because you've been through the fire and didn't break. You'll know because you stood when others gave up. You'll know because I kept you hidden for a reason, not to punish you, but to protect what I was perfecting. And now, as the signs begin to shift, as the stirring inside grows stronger, I need you to stop doubting what I've been doing in you. Just because it wasn't visible doesn't mean it wasn't valuable. Every quiet day, every delayed answer, every unnoticed step, it mattered. It all added up to this moment. I didn't waste any of it. You may not see the full picture yet, but soon, the pieces will begin to align. You'll look back and understand why I didn't let things happen sooner. You'll realize I wasn't withholding, I was crafting something bigger than your expectations could contain. And when you step into it, it won't feel forced. It won't feel like you're pretending. It will feel like you're finally stepping into the shoes I made for your soul. Not rushed, not borrowed, but fully yours, shaped by my hands, fitted with purpose, sealed with grace. So walk forward now, not with anxiety, but with awareness. I've been building this in you for longer than you know, and I'm not finished yet, but you are closer than ever. You see a barrier and think it means the path is blocked. You interpret resistance as the end of the road. But not every door that closes is meant to keep you out. Some are there to strengthen your faith, to teach you how to knock again, how to believe again, how to keep moving when everything in the natural says stop. I'm not trying to frustrate you, I'm teaching you how to see beyond the obvious. You've asked me for breakthrough, but first, I'm building perseverance. You want access, but I want alignment. Because what I'm preparing for you isn't just about getting in, it's about what you carry when you arrive. Closed doors aren't the enemy, they're tools in my hands. They reveal your motives. They expose your resilience. They stretch your capacity to trust when your logic says quit. I've watched you stand in front of opportunities that looked perfect on the surface, only to be met with silence or sudden shifts. I know it's confusing. I know it shakes your confidence. But I didn't shut the door to hurt you, I did it to redirect you. I closed it because I saw the compromise on the other side. I turned the handle because the timing wasn't right. I withheld the yes because the foundation still needed to be reinforced. You think a no means I've forgotten you, but often it means I'm preparing you for something that requires more depth, more focus, more refinement. What you see as a wall, I see as a gate, one that only opens when the moment is aligned with my divine strategy. I don't give you premature access to places that can't hold your calling. And I certainly won't let you walk into something that requires strength you haven't developed yet. That's why I let you face those closed doors, not to discourage you, but to train your faith to see differently. Can you trust me when the door doesn't move? Can you praise me even when you wait in the hallway? Can you believe I'm still working even when the answer doesn't match your expectation? These are the lessons that shape the kind of character that can carry what I'm about to release into your life. You won't always get a loud yes. Sometimes you will get a sacred pause. Sometimes you'll find yourself standing in the tension between what you hoped for and what's actually unfolding. And in that space, I meet you not with condemnation, but with clarity. I show you what I'm forming in the delay. I reveal the hidden work I'm doing in your heart. Because when the door does open, and it will, you won't walk through it anxious or unsure. You'll walk through it knowing it was me all along. You'll step into that new space with the peace that comes from preparation. You'll no longer be attached to the need to control every outcome. You'll know how to move with me, not just run ahead of me. That's what closed doors teach you, not to stop believing, but to start discerning. To know the difference between what's good and what's God. To wait not just for opportunity, but for instruction. So the next time you stand before something that doesn't move, don't see it as rejection. See it as rehearsal. I'm getting you ready. I'm training your spirit to recognize timing that is holy, not hurried. I'm teaching you how to carry peace even when answers seem distant. Because your calling requires more than open doors, it requires a heart that trusts me in the hallway. That's where faith is forged. That's where true intimacy with me is birthed. And when the door finally opens, it won't be because you forced it. It'll be because your readiness met my release. And nothing, no fear, no doubt, no delay will be able to stop what happens next. You've been asking me to take you further, to expand your reach, to elevate your influence. But before I add anything to your life, I'm anchoring you in something deeper, who you are in me. Because if I give you more without first securing your foundation, what I bless you with might shake what you haven't yet settled. I'm not just trying to grow your platform, I'm growing your confidence in my voice. Not the kind of confidence that comes from compliments or outward success, but the kind that is built in the quiet place, where you learn that your value doesn't rise and fall with what people think or how circumstances unfold. You've been tempted to measure your worth by the pace of your progress. You've looked at metrics, reactions, results, and tried to calculate your significance from them. But child, I need you to hear me clearly. Your identity isn't up for debate. It's not a variable in someone else's equation. It was sealed when I called you mine. Before you ever accomplished a single thing, you were already enough. Before the first door opened, before your name was spoken by others, before anyone acknowledged your gifts, I delighted in you. And if you build your life on that truth, nothing will be able to steal your peace. But if your identity stays attached to what you do, what you produce, or who validates you, then every high will feel like pressure, and every low will feel like proof that you're not good enough. That's not how I want you to live. That's why I'm slowing things down, not to deny you progress, but to deepen your roots. I'm teaching you how to walk in rooms without needing to be seen. I'm showing you how to speak with authority even when no one claps. I'm building in you the kind of strength that stands firm even when the spotlight fades. Because what I'm calling you into will test your center. It will stretch you. It will challenge everything you thought you needed to be secure. And I don't want you reaching for identity while carrying the weight of influence. I want you to enter those new places already sure of who you are because you know whose you are. This is why I've allowed you to face situations that stripped away the affirmations you leaned on. This is why I've let you walk through seasons where the applause went quiet. Not to wound you, but to wean you from needing external reassurance. I want your confidence to come from me, from the way I speak over you, from the truth I've written about you, from the love I pour into you that never changes, never runs out, never dims when the world gets loud. That kind of identity can't be shaken. And that's what I'm planting inside you now. So don't resist this season of deep work. Don't rush past the stillness. This is where you remember that you're not your performance. You're not your failures. You're not your titles or achievements or moments of recognition. You are my beloved, chosen, called, secure. Nothing can alter that. And once you live from that place, the increase I'm bringing won't overwhelm you, it'll flow through you. You'll no longer need to prove anything. You'll no longer chase validation. You'll serve from overflow, not emptiness. That's how you step into more without losing your soul. So yes, the expansion is coming. Yes, I'm leading you forward. But before the blessing arrives in full, I'm rooting you in identity that cannot be uprooted. You are already everything I need you to be. Now, I just want you to believe it. You've been busy doing, managing, responding, building. On the outside, it looks like forward progress. It feels like you're in motion. But not all motion is movement in the spirit. You can be active and still be stuck. You can be productive and still be misaligned. I'm not impressed by pace, I'm looking at direction. Because momentum without measure becomes noise. And I didn't create you for noise, I created you for impact. You've been caught in cycles of activity that exhaust your energy, but don't feed your soul. And you've called it purpose because it keeps you going, but I'm asking you now, where is it taking you? Are you moving with me, or just moving for the sake of not standing still? There's a difference. Some seasons require pressing forward. Others demand holy pause. But the rhythm of my spirit will never lead you into constant striving. That's not how I work. I'm not in the chaos that drives you to prove your worth. I'm in the calm that reminds you of it. And right now, I'm inviting you to pause, not to stop dreaming, but to start discerning. Because I'm not asking you to do more, I'm asking you to do what matters. I want your steps to be intentional, not just impressive. I want your yes to be weighty with purpose, not filled with pressure. I'm calling you out of the cycle of saying yes to every good thing so you don't miss the God things. I know it feels uncomfortable to slow down. You're afraid that if you pause, you will fall behind. But you're not in a race with anyone else. You're on a path that I've carved specifically for you. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is stop and listen. Let me show you what's actually worth building. Let me direct your energy toward what bears eternal fruit, not just temporary applause. Because there's a difference between momentum that comes from business and movement that comes from obedience. Momentum fades. Movement multiplies. I want your life to multiply what matters. And for that to happen, we must recalibrate. Let's revisit what you've been giving your time to. Let's look at what's driving you: fear of missing out, need to be needed, desire to stay relevant. These may feel like noble motives, but they aren't sustainable. What's sustainable is following me at my pace. What's fruitful is walking in step with my spirit. I'm not disappointed in your effort, I see your heart. I see that you're trying. I see that you want to be faithful. But I'm reminding you that faithfulness doesn't always look like full calendars and worn-out strength. Sometimes it looks like focused silence. Sometimes it looks like unseen obedience. Sometimes it looks like pruning what no longer belongs so you can make room for what's truly fruitful. And yes, people may not understand. They may question your shift. But I'm not asking you to be understood by everyone, I'm asking you to be aligned with me. When you let go of empty motion, you make space for meaningful movement. You make space for revelation, for renewed clarity, for strength that doesn't run dry. This is not a step back, it's a step inward. It's a discernment. into stillness, into spiritual recalibration. I want to show you that you don't need to be everywhere to be effective. You don't need to do everything to walk in purpose. You need to be exactly where I lead, doing exactly what I've assigned. That's where peace lives. That's where favor flows. That's where fruit remains. So breathe. Let the whirlwind settle. Let me shift your perspective. You haven't failed because you need to slow down. You're not losing momentum, you're gaining direction. And once we're moving again, it won't be frantic, it will be full of fire. Because it won't be powered by pressure. It will be led by my presence. That's the movement that changes lives, starting with yours. I know it's been quiet. You've prayed, and all you heard was your own breath. You've waited for a sign, and the sky remained still. You've asked me to speak, to confirm, to show up in a way you could recognize, and when I didn't move the way you expected, you wondered if I'd stepped away. But child, silence is not distance. My voice may pause, but my presence never does. Just because I'm not speaking doesn't mean I'm not near. In fact, it's often in the quiet where I draw the closest, not to hide from you, but to deepen your awareness of me. You've grown used to constant signals, constant noise, instant feedback. But I'm not bound to that rhythm. I speak when it's time, and I stay silent when the silence itself becomes the teacher. There are things I can shape in you through my stillness that words alone cannot build. In the quiet, you learn to lean not on feelings but on faith. In the quiet, you discover what's been driving your pursuit, my voice, or your need for reassurance. I'm not withholding to punish you. I'm withholding to purify you. I want you to learn how to walk without needing constant signs, how to believe without always hearing. This is the kind of trust that births depth. Not shallow faith that survives only on encouragement, but rooted faith that knows I am who I say I am, even when the wind is still, even when the fire doesn't fall, even when the answer hasn't come. I've been with you in every breath. I've sat beside you in every question. I've wrapped you in comfort even when you didn't know that's what you were feeling. I've been closer in your silent nights than I was in your loudest victories. Because I am not a distant God. I am not a responder who waits for perfect words or flawless prayers. I'm a father who remains even when it's quiet. I've been watching how you keep showing up, how you keep worshiping without the breakthrough, how you keep walking even when your soul craves a voice from heaven. And I want you to know I see you. I see the tears you didn't wipe away because no one was there to notice. I see the strength it took to stand up again today. I see the decisions you made in faith, not because you felt like it, but because you've learned to trust me even in the hush. That's growth. That's maturity. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains, not the kind that always hears me, but the kind that always follows me. So no, the silence is not a sign that I've forgotten you. It's a sign that I'm working beneath the surface. I'm giving you room to grow in the dark. I'm building endurance. I'm refining your ability to sense me when I'm not loud. Because where I'm taking you, you'll need to recognize my presence without needing dramatic confirmation. You'll need to be able to say, I know He's with me, even when there's no sign, no miracle, no answer yet. And that knowing, it's becoming stronger in you now. Every day you've stayed faithful in the quiet has strengthened that core. And I promise my silence never lasts forever. The voice you've longed for will speak again. The clarity you crave will break through like morning light. But when it comes, you'll carry it differently. You won't just hear it, you'll steward it. You won't just feel it, you'll live from it. So don't mistake this silence for abandonment. I'm here. I've always been here. And I'm doing more in the quiet than you could ever imagine. This is holy ground. Not because of what's being said, but because of who's standing with you in the stillness. We. Always me. I've watched you piece yourself together with whatever strength you could find. I've seen you smile through the ache, show up for others while silently carrying your own weight, and convince yourself that if you just stay busy, the pain will quiet down. You've learned how to function while fractured. You've become skilled at surviving in silence, But that was never my desire for you. I didn't create you to limp through life pretending the wounds are gone. I came so you could be whole, not just patched up, not just numb to what hurt you, but healed at the root. I see how you've tried to fix it on your own. You've read the books, buried yourself in responsibilities, whispered prayers in passing, and said, "I'm fine," when deep down, you knew you weren't. You thought healing would come with time alone, but time only reveals what hasn't been dealt with. Healing doesn't begin when the pain disappears. It begins when you invite me into it. And that's what I've been waiting for, not for you to fix yourself, but to finally fall into my arms without needing to have the right words or the perfect posture. You don't need to present me with a polished version of your pain. You don't need to clean it up before you offer it to me. Bring me the raw places, the bleeding places, the questions, the confusion, the exhaustion. I'm not intimidated by any of it. I don't flinch when I see your brokenness. I came for it. I died for it. And now I want to hold it. You've believed the lie that strength means pretending it doesn't hurt anymore. But real strength begins when you let me touch what's tender. I'm not interested in surface-level comfort. I want to go deep. To the moments you buried. To the emotions you silenced. To the stories you stopped telling because they were too painful to revisit. I want to walk with you there. Not to shame you, but to sit with you in it and carry what you were never supposed to hold alone. That secret weight you've been bearing in private. I see it. And I want to take it from you. Not just once, but daily. Healing isn't a one-time event. It's a process. And I will be present for all of it. I will meet you on the days when you feel progress and the days when you feel like you're right back where you started. I will hold you steady when grief sneaks up out of nowhere. I will whisper peace when the memories return. I will surround you with my presence when the silence feels suffocating. You are not a burden for needing time. You are not behind for needing to heal. This is not weakness, it's wisdom. A pause. To let me tend to the parts of your story you've tried to skip over. I want to make those places whole, not hidden. I want you to walk free, not just forward. And yes, it may be uncomfortable at first. It may stir up things you thought you were done feeling. But the discomfort is not a sign to stop, it's a sign that healing is happening. It's me, gently pulling out what's been buried too long. It's me making space for joy again. For peace again. For the version of you that's no longer surviving but thriving in my love. I never asked you to carry this alone. And I never will. Invite me in. Not just into the victories, but into the valleys. Into the questions. Into the pain you've tried to ignore. I'm already there, waiting, not with judgment, but with healing in my hands. You've tried it alone. Now try it with me. I promise. You won't have to pretend anymore. I will walk you into wholeness, one breath, one step, one moment at a time. You've been moving through life carrying more than anyone sees. You smiled in rooms where your heart was breaking. You've been strong when everything in you was collapsing. And now, there's this quiet exhaustion, not just in your body, but in your spirit. It's the kind of tired that no nap can fix. The kind that builds from prolonged hope without resolution. The kind that forms when you carry burdens you weren't made to hold. I see it. I feel the weariness in every breath you breathe out in private. But even though you feel depleted, even though you wonder how you've made it this far, let me remind you of a truth that goes deeper than your feelings. You haven't walked a single step alone. That strength you thought came from you. It was me. That resilience you credited to your personality. That was my spirit lifting you when you wanted to quit. The reason you haven't collapsed under the pressure is because I've been upholding you with grace you didn't even know you were receiving. You've been surviving on divine strength in disguise. And while you thought of yourself as barely making it, I've been smiling because what you call weakness is actually faith in action. You kept going when the path was unclear. You stayed faithful when it would have been easier to disconnect. You kept choosing me, even when my voice felt distant. That's not just endurance, that's worship. That's what faith looks like when it's no longer about feelings, but rooted in choice. And now I want to shift something in you, not just to survive, but to live revive. You were never meant to live spiritually dehydrated. My presence isn't just for crisis moments. It's your daily portion. I don't want you running on fumes. I want you refreshed. Not just surviving till the next answer, but walking in daily awareness that I am your supply. Let me pour into you again, not through striving, but through stillness. I want to remind you that your value isn't in your output. Your worth isn't based on how much you accomplish. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to prove your usefulness to deserve peace. You're loved not because of what you do, but because of who you are to me. And that love comes with sustenance. When you're weary, come to me not as your last resort, but as your first response. My strength isn't for the super spiritual. It's for the surrendered. And right now, I'm extending it to you not with demands, but with delight. I know how heavy your thoughts have been. I know how your heart has silently ached while you kept showing up for everyone else. I know you've wondered if you're falling behind. But in me, you are exactly where you need to be. There's no rush, no pressure, just invitation. Come and rest. Let me carry what you keep collecting. Lay down your need to appear okay and just be with me. Cry if you need to. Sit in silence if that's all you can offer. I don't need words, I need your heart. You've leaned on your own endurance for long enough. And now, let me become your strength in the way I always intended. Not just to lift you in emergencies, but to sustain you through the everyday. From this moment on, you don't have to live drained. You don't have to walk pretending. I have fresh strength for you. I have quiet peace that steadies you before the next decision is ever made. And when you rise again, you'll know this isn't just willpower. This is me, walking with you, holding you up, renewing you. Breathe my breath. You're not weak for feeling tired. You're human. And I'm your God. Wesa here. If you'll hear. I've got you completely. I've seen the seeds you've sown when no one was watching. The times you served with no applause. The moments you gave without recognition. The prayers whispered through tears. The obedience that cost you comfort. You've walked in integrity when it would have been easier to cut corners. You've chosen righteousness over shortcuts. And though it felt like no one noticed, I did. Heaven took record. Every act of quiet faith, every decision to honor me when it was inconvenient, every time you resisted bitterness and chose love instead, it all mattered. You thought your efforts were invisible, but they've been taking root. Deep, steady roots. And now, even if you haven't seen much fruit yet, even if the ground seems unchanging, the shift is already underway. What was hidden is rising. What was slow is speeding up. You didn't miss your harvest, you've been maturing into it. I allowed it to develop this way on purpose. Because a public reward without private depth creates instability. And I love you too much to let you rise without being rooted. That's why the last season felt buried. Love forgotten, buried. There's a difference. Things that are forgotten are cast away. Things that are buried are being prepared to break forth. And you, my beloved, have been growing under pressure, expanding in the unseen, stretching in silence. You thought you were stuck, but you were being strengthened. You thought you were overlooked, but you were being overshadowed by my hand. And now, what I've cultivated within you is beginning to break the surface. It won't look like what you expected. It will come in unexpected moments, through unlikely connections, by doors you didn't know existed. I will bring the increase not by striving, but by my spirit. But don't mistake increase for identity. The harvest isn't proof that you're suddenly valuable, it's confirmation that you were valuable even in the soil. Your worth didn't begin when results appeared. Your worth was present when you planted with trembling hands, not knowing if anyone would see or care. I cared. I always cared. This next season is not just about what's coming to you, it's about what's going to come through you. You've been faithful with little, and now I can trust you with more. But stay low. Stay humble. Stay surrendered. Because as the fruit begins to show, the enemy will try to twist your focus. He'll whisper that it's about visibility. He'll tempt you to believe the platform matters more than the posture. But you know better. You know the cost of the soil. You know the sacredness of obedience. That's what makes you ready, not perfection, but perspective. The harvest I'm bringing will touch lives. It will break chains. It will confirm words you received years ago. But don't rush it. Don't try to force the bloom. Your only task is to remain in me. Let me be the vine. Let my strength be your source. Let my voice remain louder than every opinion and distraction. I'm not blessing you to prove something to others. I'm blessing you because you stewarded what was hidden with reverence. And I always reward what is done in secret with fruit that brings me glory in the open. So lift your head. The ground is shifting beneath you. What once looked barren is about to burst with beauty. Not because of anything you manipulated, but because of everything you surrendered. Your roots are ready. Your heart is steady. Your spirit has been refined. And now, I will cause what you planted in tears to rise in joy. This is not the end of your planting, it's the beginning of your flourishing. Watch what I do. Not just for you, but through you. You've looked at the path others are walking and wondered if you missed a turn. You've watched timelines unfold for people around you, career shifts, relationships blooming, breakthroughs celebrated, and silently asked, Lord, did I fall behind? I've seen the quiet tension in your soul, the way you've measured your progress by someone else's pace. But I need you to hear me clearly now. My plans for you were never based on comparison. I don't rush you through seasons. I prepared you through them. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not less faithful because your journey looks different. You are exactly where I need you, not because it feels like forward motion, but because it's forming you for fulfillment. There's a rhythm in heaven that doesn't match the noise of the world. The world says faster is better. It says achievement proves value. But I say becoming is more important than arriving. And I've been doing deep work in you, work that takes time, that can't be rushed, that anchors you so you don't crumble under the weight of what's coming. You've wondered why things haven't unfolded the way you planned. But I never asked you to write the story, I asked you to trust the author. I'm not working by your clock. I'm working through your character. Because when I move, it won't be a shallow step, it will be a leap. And when the moment comes, it will make sense why I had you pause, why I had you wait, why I closed doors that others walked through. Every perceived delay has had purpose. Every detour had direction. You weren't wondering, you were being refined. You weren't overlooked, you were being hidden in plain sight until the fullness of time arrived. The tension in your heart between faith and frustration. That's where trust is born. That's where faith becomes more than a word, it becomes your lifeline. And I've seen how you've continued to walk, even when your feet were heavy with uncertainty. It hasn't gone unnoticed in heaven. You're not behind. You're on sacred ground, ground that others can't see, but I've prepared specifically for you. I've been building layers in you that the world won't understand: discernment, endurance, humility, compassion. These are not seen at first glance, but they will be the reason you last when others burn out. I'm not just preparing you for the promise, I'm preparing you to remain once you arrive. And if I move you before you were rooted, the blessing would break you. But now, you're being fortified. Quietly. Deeply. Strategically. Every step you've taken has mattered, even the ones that felt like you were going nowhere. You've been learning how to hear me more clearly. You've been developing a rhythm of trust that doesn't depend on results. That's not wasted time. That's wisdom information. You think you're behind because you expected results by now. But I'm not just producing fruit, I'm ensuring the tree can hold it. That's why I've slowed things down. That's why I've had you revisit foundations. Because what I'm about to release in your life will not be momentary. It will be sustained. And for that to happen, you needed to walk this particular path, not theirs. Yours. Because your calling is unique. Your journey has been tailor-made. What you carry requires a different kind of shaping. So stop looking at the timelines of others. Stop wondering if you're missing out. What I've placed inside of you is not on pause, it's on purpose. And it's still unfolding. The chapter you're in is necessary, even if it feels slow. Don't rush what I'm doing. Don't resent the pace. Embrace it. There's beauty in steady progress. There's glory in quiet growth. And soon, what's been happening inside will be revealed on the outside, and it will be undeniable that my hand have been on it all along. You're not late. You're right on time for what I've written, for what I've shaped, for what I'm about to unveil. You've been walking through a season that feels like pause. Plans have stalled. Doors you thought would open stayed closed. Opportunities that once looked certain slip away. And in the quiet moments, you've asked if the delay means something is wrong with you, if maybe your faith wasn't enough, or if you somehow missed the path I laid before you. But hear me now. The waiting hasn't been punishment. It's been preparation. And more than that, it's been about clarity. I've been sharpening your ability to see what truly comes from me. In earlier seasons, you would have said yes to anything that looked like progress. You would have accepted every offer, walked through every door, embraced every connection that seemed like a blessing. But not all good things are sent by my hand. Some are sent to distract. Some arrive too early, before your spirit is ready to carry their weight. That's why I slowed you down, not because you weren't willing, but because you're worth protecting. I've been teaching you to wait not just for opportunity, but for confirmation. Not just for movement, but for me. There's power in waiting with purpose. It creates space for vision to clear. It silences noise that tries to imitate my voice. It strips away the surface-level desires and brings forward the ones that are rooted in my will. That's what I've been doing in you. I've been refining your instincts. I've been growing your sensitivity to my leading. So that when the real thing comes, the real assignment, the real relationship, the real next step, you won't question if it's from me. You'll know. Not by sight, but by spirit. Discernment isn't just knowing the difference between right and wrong, it's knowing the difference between right and almost right. It's being able to feel the shift in your spirit when something doesn't carry my presence, even if it sounds perfect on paper. And that level of clarity doesn't come through rushing, it's forged in stillness. You may not have seen results yet, but look how far your discernment has come. You've grown quieter on the inside, more alert, more anchored. You've learned how to listen with more than your ears. That's not wasted time. That's wisdom rising. And now, because you've been faithful in the waiting, I'm releasing a new kind of discernment over you. One that sees beneath the surface. One that feels peace as clearly as a voice. One that knows when to step and when to stay. You're not the same as you were at the beginning of this process. You're no longer moved by every opportunity that knocks. You're no longer swayed by urgency or pressured by opinions. You've learned to trust the pause. You've learned to value what can't be seen as much as what can. This is what maturity in me looks like. It's not just about strength, it's about alignment. It's about walking in wisdom, knowing that sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to wait until I say, now. And when I do, and I will, the clarity will flood in. The door will not just open, it will fit. The timing will not just work, it will feel divinely timed. You won't have to push. You won't have to guess. Because you will feel what you've learned to recognize in this waiting season. My hand, my presence, my peace. To hold on. Not because you're desperate, but because you're discerning. The next season requires someone who can see with spiritual eyes. And that's what I've been shaping in you all along. The waiting wasn't to wear you down, it was to lift your vision. And now, you're beginning to see. With clarity. With depth. With me. I know you're trying to find your next step. You've asked me for signs, confirmations, open doors, anything that would make the decision easier. You've laid maps before me in prayer, hoping I'll highlight the exact route to follow. But while you're looking for the path, I'm calling you to pause and simply draw nearer. Because it's not the next move that will carry you, it's my presence. What you're really hungry for isn't information, it's intimacy. You think clarity will calm your anxiety, but the peace you're craving won't come from knowing what's next, and will come from knowing me more. You've been wired to seek answers. You want strategy, sequence, assurance. But direction without relationship turns divine assignments into stressful obligations. It makes the journey about performance instead of partnership. And I didn't create you to walk with a map, I created you to walk with me. I'm not withholding plans to frustrate you. I'm inviting you into deeper trust. I don't just want to hand you instructions, I want to walk beside you with each unfolding step. Because if I gave you the full picture right now, it would overwhelm you. But if you stay close, I'll lead you through it one moment at a time. I know you felt like you're in between seasons. One chapter is ending, another hasn't fully begun. It's tempting to fill the silence with striving to get busy doing, fixing, preparing. But I'm not in the rush. I'm in the stillness. The direction will come, but only after you reconnect your heart to mine without an agenda. I want you to come not to get answers, but to get me. Because when you know me, really know me, your spirit learns how to move without fear, how to rest without guilt, how to hear my voice even in the absence of visible signs. This isn't a delay. This is a divine pause. I'm protecting you from stepping into something prematurely. I'm shielding you from decisions that are built on anxiety rather than alignment. I'm calling you to a kind of clarity that comes from communion, not calculation. Sit with me. Not for outcomes, but for overflow. Bring me your questions, but don't expect me to answer them all at once. Sometimes, the answer is in the waiting itself. Sometimes, direction is born in the slowing down, in the release of control, in the quiet moments where your heart returns to a place of simple worship. You've forgotten that the greatest breakthroughs don't come from striving, they come from abiding. You don't need to strive your way into clarity. You don't need to earn revelation through effort. I give it freely to those who rest in me. You've been standing at a crossroads thinking you're stuck. But what if I've brought you here not to rush a decision, but to deepen your devotion? What if what looks like confusion is actually an invitation to go lower, slower, deeper into my presence? I'm not concerned about how fast you get to your destination. I'm concerned about how whole you are when you get there. You keep asking me for direction, but I'm asking you to let me become your direction. Let me become your way, your compass, your rhythm. Let your steps come from love, not fear of making a mistake. Let your movement be born from peace, not panic. You won't miss what I have for you if you stay near. You won't take the wrong road if your heart is tuned to mine. So today, pause the planning. Silence the pressure. Come sit with me again, not for answers, but for alignment. Let my presence become your atmosphere. Let me remind you of who you are before you take another step forward. This journey is not about racing, it's about remaining. Not about perfection, but proximity. I will lead you. But first, let me hold you. There's a weight you've carried in secret, the pressure to be enough, to measure up, to meet expectations that even you can't define anymore. You've tried to be strong for everyone, tried to fix everything before it falls apart, tried to be so perfect that no one would question your worth. You've called it responsibility. You've called it being faithful. But I see deeper, I see the silent fear driving it all. The fear that if you don't do enough, give enough, be enough, you might lose what you were never meant to earn in the first place. My love. Child, hear me clearly, I never placed that burden on you. My love for you was never based on your performance. My presence doesn't depend on how flawless your prayers sound or how perfectly you live. I didn't choose you because of your record, I chose you because of your height. From the beginning, I've loved you as you are, not as you strive to be. There is nothing you can do that will make me love you more. And nothing you've done has made me love you less. But somewhere along the way, you started trying to deserve what was always meant to be received. You began turning grace into a transaction, my affection into something that had to be maintained like a fragile agreement. And now, you're tired, worn down by the chase for approval, afraid of falling short, scared of what will happen if you stop holding everything together. But child, I didn't call you to live under the pressure of perfection. I called you to live from the place of peace that comes from knowing you are already mine. You don't have to earn your way into my arms, I already opened them. You don't have to prove your value, I declared it from the cross. The reason I came was to free you from the exact burden you keep putting back on your shoulders. And now, I'm asking you to lay it down again, not just the visible stress, but the inner striving. The thought that says, I have to fix this before I come to him. The belief that says, if I do everything right, maybe he'll bless me. Oh, beloved, my blessings are not wages. They are gifts. Let me unteach the lies that pressure taught you. Let me break the cycle of conditional worth that the world attached to your soul. You are not valuable because of how much you achieve. You are valuable because I breathed life into you and called you worthy with my own blood. I don't want your polished performance, I want your surrendered presence. I don't need your constant doing, I desire your simple being. With me. In me. As you are. Yes, I want you to grow. Yes, I want you to obey. But growth is not the condition for love, it's the result of living in it. Obedience flows from intimacy, not insecurity. I'm not standing over you with a checklist, I'm walking beside you with compassion. When you fall, I don't roll my eyes. I reach out. When you struggle, I don't pull away. I step in. I never called you to carry this alone. So breathe. Let the fear melt in the truth of my mercy. Let the perfectionism unravel in the warmth of my embrace. You don't have to work for what you already have. You are accepted. You are seen. You are held. Right now. Not someday. Not after you improve. Now. I'm not asking for more effort, I'm asking for more surrender. Let go of earning. Embrace receiving. I've already given you the greatest gift, myself. And I'm not taking it back. Come sit with me again. No agenda. No pressure. Just love. Pure. Constant. Unchanging. The kind that doesn't make you chase it, it simply asks you to trust it. You felt like you're being stretched from every side, like your capacity is being tested beyond what you thought possible. You've looked at your life lately and quietly wondered, is this too much for me? The weight of responsibilities, the pace of life, the emotional ups and downs, it's all been pressing in, and you started to question whether you're even able to carry what's been placed in your hands. But I need you to see this differently. This isn't the enemy trying to crush you, this is me enlarging your vessel. I'm not overloading you. I'm preparing you for overflow. You've been praying for more purpose, more impact, more of me. And I heard you. But what you may not have realized is that more doesn't arrive in a single moment, it's poured into your life over time. It comes through stretching, refining, making room. That's why certain things have been shaking. That's why areas of your life that once felt comfortable have suddenly required a deeper level of faith. I'm creating new space inside you, not to break you, but to fill you. I don't pour fresh oil into cracked vessels. I restore first. I reshape. And then I release what you asked for. But I won't pour what I intend to overflow unless you allow me to expand you. Overflow requires space. It requires structure. And it begins inside, not outside. I'm growing your patience not because I want to delay you, but because your future will require emotional resilience. I'm enlarging your compassion not just for those close to you, but for those I'm about to send you to. I'm deepening your ability to hear my voice not because I've been distant, but because I'm getting you ready to lead others from a place of discernment, not opinion. You've prayed for increase, and I'm answering that prayer, but increase isn't just about what you receive. It's about how you steward it. The overflow I'm preparing is not for your ego, it's for my glory. It's not to make your name known, it's to reveal mine through your life. And for that to happen, I must stretch the parts of you that want to stay small. I must press into the places you've kept safe. Not to hurt you, but to awaken you. You were never meant to live in survival mode. I didn't call you just to get by, I called you to pour out. But how can you pour if you haven't been filled? And how can you be filled if you don't allow me to expand what's been confined by fear? That's what this moment is about. It's not chaos, it's capacity greasing. It's me removing the ceilings you placed on yourself. It's me breathing into the spaces you thought were too weak, too limited, too flawed. I'm not avoiding your limitations, I'm empowering you through them. My power is made perfect there. So don't be afraid of the stretch. Don't retreat just because it's unfamiliar. This is not punishment, it's positioning. You are not being pushed to the edge, you're being lifted to a new level. And when you feel like the pressure is too much, remember, pressure always comes before outpouring. Even the olive must be crushed to release the oil. And the oil I'm releasing in you will touch lives far beyond what you've imagined. Soon, what I've been pouring in will begin pouring out into your words, your work, your relationships, your purpose. You won't just be sustained, you will be overflowing. With wisdom, with peace, with anointing, with power. Not because you earned it, but because you let me expand you. So breathe. Let me continue the work. You're not breaking, you're becoming. The overflow is coming. And it will be more than enough, not just for you, but for everyone I've called you to bless through it. You've noticed it, the hush in your spirit, the unanswered prayers, the moments where heaven seems still. You've looked around and wondered why things feel paused, why the guidance isn't coming as quickly as before, why the sense of movement has softened into stillness. And I know what you've been thinking. Did I do something wrong? Have I lost his voice? But what you're experiencing is not abandonment. It's not withdrawal. It's consecration. I've drawn you into a quieter place, not to distance myself, but to deepen what we share. There's a work I do in the silence that can't be done when the noise of life is too loud. You're used to clarity that comes with words, with direction, with signs. But there's another kind of clarity, a holy kind that comes when everything else fades and you are left with only me. No distractions, no expectations, just presence. In this sacred quiet, I am not just answering questions, I'm reshaping them. I'm shifting your heart from needing to know everything to simply trusting that I do. This is where faith grows its deepest roots, not in the answers you receive, but in the confidence that you are still held even without them. You keep looking for evidence that I'm working, but my greatest work often happens when there's no proof at all, only faith. And you've been walking in that kind of faith more than you realize. When you get up and keep going even though you don't feel me, faith. When you worship without breakthrough, faith. When you prayed and the heavens are still, but your heart stays surrendered, faith. That kind of faith moves mountains in ways you cannot yet see. I'm building something in your spirit that doesn't require noise to remain strong. I'm teaching you how to carry stillness, how to move with peace even when your questions are unanswered. Because what I'm preparing you for will require this kind of depth. You won't always have the time to pause and ask for step-by-step instruction. There will be moments when you'll need to move with what you've already learned in silence. Moments when your discernment will come not from sudden revelation, but from the intimacy we've cultivated in these quiet hours. You've wondered if your prayers are reaching me. Let me assure you they always do. I bottle every tear. I hear every whisper. I'm not silent because I'm far. I'm silent because I'm working beneath the surface, removing what doesn't belong, reinforcing what must remain. And I do this gently, thoroughly, lovingly, without interruption. You wouldn't want me to rush this. What I'm doing is sacred. It's holy. It's preparation for something weighty. Don't despise the silence. Don't rush past it. Don't try to fill it with substitutes. Let it do its work. Let it cleanse your inner world of distractions. Let it teach you the rhythm of my spirit, the pace of peace. The silence is not empty, it's filled with presence. My presence. And when I do speak again, you'll hear me with new clarity. Not because my voice changed, but because your ears have been tuned to the sound of heaven in stillness. In this quiet, I'm making you steady. Zabel. Anchor. You won't be shaken by storms because you've learned how to rest when it's calm. You won't be rattled by delay because you've found contentment in my nearness alone. This is not wasted time. This is holy construction. And when I open the next door, you won't walk through it questioning whether I'm with you. You'll carry me into it, deeply rooted, fully aware, spiritually awake. So stay here with me. Let the silence finish its assignment. It won't last forever, but what it builds will. You're not waiting for me to show up. I've been here all along, quietly holding you, silently shaping you, faithfully preparing you for what only silence could build. You stood at the edge of what you believed was final and ending, a collapse, a moment where the dream seemed to dissolve into dust. You felt the ache of things unraveling, the quiet disappointment that something you poured yourself into didn't turn out the way you prayed it would. You mourned it. You questioned it. You wondered how a God so loving could allow what felt like purpose to fade. But I want you to see what I saw from the beginning. That moment was not your failure, it was my foundation. I allowed that chapter to close not to crush your spirit but to correct your trajectory. Because some things must be laid down before what's truly divine can rise. You thought you were finished. You thought the plan had fallen apart. But I wasn't finished. I was just getting started. Sometimes what looks like a loss is really a divine exchange. Sometimes the door that closes is the one that saves your soul. And you, beloved, didn't lose me in that ending, you met me deeper in it. I specialize in resurrection not just of people, but of dreams, purpose, passion, and identity. I don't rebuild around what failed. I create from what surrendered. You let it fall, and I caught you. You let it go, and I held your heart. You trusted me through the tears, and I began constructing something that can't be taken from you this time. Because what I'm doing now isn't based on old expectations, it's built on eternal design. It's not a redo. It's a rebirth. You thought the end was a detour, but it was a divine redirection to what would have otherwise been missed. And no, it didn't feel good. But it is doing good, working all things together, piecing together the puzzle you couldn't yet see, turning what broke you into what births you. Because pain is never wasted when it's placed in my hands. In fact, the most sacred stories begin in the ashes. And I've been gathering yours with care. I know what you lost. I know what you hoped for. I know the part of you that still flinches at the memory of when it all shifted. But I also know what's on the other side, and I promise, it carries more glory than you can imagine. That heartbreak, I'm redeeming it. That closed chapter, I'm rewriting it with purpose. A shattered dream, I'm reshaping it into something eternal. You will dare to wonder if it was worth it. In time, you'll see why it had to end for something higher, purer, stronger to begin. I didn't let it fall apart to punish you. I allowed it to collapse because it couldn't hold the weight of what I've placed inside you. Your destiny requires a new framework, not built on the pressure to perform, but on the freedom to walk fully with me. And what's being born now doesn't need to impress anyone, it only needs to please me. You won't need to explain it. You won't need to prove it. The fruit will speak. The peace will testify. The oil will flow. And it will all point back to this moment, the one you thought was the end but was truly your beginning. So don't fear what's behind you. Don't mourn what I've moved you past. There is resurrection power in motion, even now. What looked lifeless is stirring again. What seemed silent is about to sing. And the next time you face what feels like an ending, you'll remember this one. You'll know that I don't finish stories in despair, I finish them in glory. You'll carry that truth in your bones. If it ended, it must mean something eternal is beginning. Let me finish what I started. I've never needed perfect circumstances to bring about holy conclusions. All I need is your trust. And you've given it. And now watch me build from what you thought was gone. You've been asking why certain doors stayed shut. Why visibility hasn't come as quickly as you hope. Why the things you've built in faith still seem hidden in the shadows, unseen by the very people you thought would celebrate them. And quietly, a question has formed inside you. Am I being overlooked? But I want you to hear this truth clearly. Your hidden season was not punishment. It was protection. I've kept you out of view not to keep you small, but to keep you safe while I was shaping you for something larger than you realized. Not everything that grows in the light is strong. Sometimes, the fastest growth is also the weakest. But I haven't rushed your story. I've taken my time. Because what I'm building in you must be able to withstand more than applause. It must endure pressure. You've been developing roots, deep ones. Roots that can't be seen but hold everything together when storms come. That's why I hid you. Not because you weren't ready, but because I was preparing the fullness of what's to come. If I had revealed you too soon, the weight of exposure would have crushed what I had only begun to form. Visibility without inner strength is dangerous. But now, because you've remained faithful when it felt like no one noticed, because you continued in obedience when affirmation was silent, because you stayed committed when others quit, I can trust you with more. And not just with more responsibility, but with more of my presence flowing through your life. You weren't forgotten, you were being fortified. I watched every step you took in private. Every moment you chose character over convenience. Every time you walked away from what was popular to stay in my process. The world may not have seen it, but heaven celebrated every act of surrender. The hidden years were not wasted, they were sacred. They were the cocoon before the flight. They were the womb before the birth. And now, the unveiling is near. But it won't look like striving. It won't come with pressure. It will flow naturally, because it's time. When I open the doors, you won't need to push them. They'll swing wide, because I've already aligned the timing. And when you step through, you'll do so not with fear, but with fullness. You'll know who you are not because others affirm it, but because I already settled it in the secret place. That's what this hidden season has been for, to make you unshakable before I make you visible. To strengthen your spirit before the spotlight shifts. To anchor you in truth so deeply that no applause can distract and no criticism can derail. You've prayed, use me, Lord. And I am. But I'm not just using your talent, I'm using your testimony. The world needs more than impressive gifts. It needs people who carry my heart. People who have been through refining fire and still remain tender. People who know the cost of obedience and carry wisdom with their words. That's you. That's what I've been forming in the hidden place. You're not coming out as you went in. You're coming out refined, filled, equipped. So don't despise the hiding. Don't rush the unveiling. When it happens, you'll realize that everything I kept you from was necessary. That every delay was mercy. That every quiet moment was filled with my preparation. And when you rise, it will not be for show, it will be for service. You won't be building platforms. You'll be building people. You won't be chasing fame. You'll be carrying fire. And they'll know not because of your name, but because of my presence that goes with you. This was never about being seen. It's always been about being sent. And now I'm getting ready to send you. You've been feeling the pressure mount. Obstacles rising. Opposition tightening. It feels like every step forward is met with resistance. Every new beginning is challenged by something unexpected. And you started to wonder if maybe it's a warning, maybe you're off course, maybe you missed my signal. But I want to shift your perspective right now. The pressure isn't a detour. It's confirmation that you're approaching breakthrough territory. The resistance isn't blocking you, it's revealing how close you are to stepping into what I've already declared over your life. Before every gate of promise, there comes pressure. Before every door opens, the enemy attempts to intimidate. Why? Because hell knows you're nearing alignment. Because the territory you're about to walk into carries weight. Because what's waiting on the other side of your obedience isn't just for you, it's going to break chains in others. And that kind of move attracts resistance. What you weren't built to break. You were equipped for this. The enemy doesn't waste energy attacking what's stagnant. He targets what's rising. And you've been rising. Quietly. Steadily. In ways the world may not have noticed, but the kingdom of darkness has. That's why the warfare increased. That's why the thoughts intensified. That's why the very ground you once walked on with ease now feels unfamiliar. It's not because you're failing, it's because you're forging a path that others will follow. And the resistance is simply trying to convince you to turn back before the gate fully opens. But I haven't brought you this far to retreat. I haven't shaped you through the fire only to have you freeze when the enemy roars. His roar is loud, but it's empty. It has no authority unless you hand it over through fear. And I'm standing with you now, reminding you, you are not alone. I'm the one who trains your hands for battle, your spirit for endurance. And what feels like chaos is actually spiritual traction. You're pushing against a barrier that's already weakening. Every act of obedience has been pressure against the wall. Every prayer you whispered in exhaustion cracked the foundation. And soon, it will fall. But don't just wait for it to collapse, press through. Move forward even when it trembles. Worship louder in the waiting. Declare truth over what seems uncertain. I haven't asked you to fight with human weapons, I've asked you to fight with faith. With praise. With perseverance that doesn't quit when the atmosphere shifts. Because those are the weapons that shake things loose in the spirit. Those are the weapons that confuse the enemy and empower you to endure. And I know it's hard. I know it's tiring. I know there are moments where you want to lay it all down and go back to what was familiar. But you didn't come this far just to come this far. You came to cross over. You came to reclaim what was stolen. You came to fulfill what was written about you before you ever took your first breath. So don't bow to resistance, rise within it. Let it remind you that you're on the edge of something sacred. This next move isn't about being seen, it's about being positioned. It's about establishing spiritual territory that the enemy has long tried to control. But he can't stop what I've ordained. And if you keep walking step by step, tier by tier, you will see the gate swing wide. And you'll realize that the resistance didn't stop you. It made you stronger. It taught you to fight with truth instead of emotion. It reminded you that what's ahead is so valuable, the enemy had to try everything to keep you out. But he failed. Because you're still here. You're still standing. You're still believing. And that right there is the proof that you're ready. The gate is closer than it looks. But again, I know this season has rattled you. What once felt firm beneath your feet has shifted. Plans unraveled. People change. Expectations were unmet. You stood in the middle of what used to feel solid and watched it tremble. And in the shaking, you began asking if you did something wrong. If perhaps you stepped out of my will. But I want you to understand this shaking is not a sign of failure. It's a signal that I'm removing what can no longer support where I'm taking you. I don't shake your life to cause fear, I do it to uncover foundations. To separate what's temporary from what's eternal. To show you what's built on sand and what's anchored in me. Because sometimes, what you thought was stable was only standing by habit. And I love you too much to let you keep building on ground that can't hold the weight of what I'm about to release. The shaking didn't come to destroy you, it came to define what really matters. It came to refocus your heart on what I'm doing now, not what you once depended on. Yes, I know it feels uncomfortable. Shaking always does. It loosens attachments, confronts dependencies, pulls away what's surface level. But while it's shaking around you, notice what's still standing within you. Your faith didn't collapse. Your hope may have flickered, but it never fully died. You've questioned much, but you didn't walk away. That's what I'm after, not perfection, but perseverance. Not polish, but purity. And the shaking exposes what was never strong enough to remain. It clears the way for what is. Look closely. There are things you're no longer holding on to, not because they disappeared, but because they were pried from your hands for your protection. I removed some comforts so you could discover my consistency. I disrupted routines to reveal where your peace was placed. And though it may feel like loss, what's really happening is liberation. You're being set free from dependence on what could never truly sustain you. You've prayed for deeper faith. This is how it grows. Not in stillness, but in storms. Not in ease, but in endurance. And I've been right here through every tremor, holding you, speaking peace into your spirit even while your surroundings tremble. You may not have felt me at every turn, but I've never left. I've been closer in the chaos than you could imagine, whispering strength when you had none, surrounding you when everything else felt like it was falling apart. And now, in the aftermath of what's been shaken, look again. You'll see clarity rising, discernment strengthening, a calm confidence growing, not because the shaking stopped, but because you've learned how to stand within it. That's maturity. That's what unshakable really means. It's not the absence of disruption, it's the presence of peace that cannot be moved. So don't rebuild what I've removed. Don't cling to what cracked. Let me establish something new. A foundation not built on your effort, but on my word. Not on routine, but on revelation. Let me pour new strength into the ground of your heart. Because what I build from here won't be shallow. It won't be fragile. It won't falter when tested. It will stand. And not only will it stand, it will support others. Your life will become a place of refuge for those still in their own shaking. Your story will be their shelter. Your endurance will echo hope to those who are ready to give up. That's why I allowed the shaking not to shame you, but to shape you into something sturdy, unbent, rooted in truth, flowing with grace. What once terrified you will now testify through you. And what once made you question will become the very thing that confirms your faith is real, your calling is sure, and your foundation is me. I've shaken what needed to fall. And now, watch what I build that will never be moved again. You've been trying so hard to do everything right, to avoid mistakes, to live up to what you think I expect of you. You've carried this quiet pressure, convincing yourself that if you can just get everything in order, I'll finally move in your situation. But child, I'm not waiting on your perfection. I'm waiting on your permission. I'm not looking for flawless steps. I'm looking for an open heart. I'm not asking you to have all the answers. I'm asking you to invite me into the places where you don't. You've confused performance with faithfulness. You've believed that if you could just fix yourself enough, I would finally bless what you're building. But I never asked you to build anything alone. I never told you to carry the load and then call me when it's done. I wanted to walk with you in it. I long to be part of the process, not just the final product. I want to be present in your mess, not just in your milestones. But I won't force myself in. I wait for you to say, "Yes, Lord," even here, even now, even in this. That is the moment everything shifts. I see the places you try to hide, the thoughts you silence, the pain you bury, the habits you're ashamed of. But nothing you've concealed has ever been invisible to me. And yet I stay. I remain. I pursue. Not to accuse you, but to heal you. Not to expose you for embarrassment, but to lift the weight of pretending. I'm not surprised by your brokenness. I already made provision for it at the cross. I'm not looking for your strength. I'm looking for your surrender. I'm not waiting for you to become impressive. I'm waiting for you to become honest. I want to sit with you in the exact place you feel unworthy and speak truth until shame has no room to breathe. I want to take the parts of your life you've been editing and rewrite them with grace. But I need permission to enter fully, not just the rooms you've cleaned up, but the ones you've closed off because you thought I'd disapprove. I already know what's there, and I've already decided to love you through it. You've been taught to hustle for holiness, but holiness isn't achieved, it's received. It's what I form in you when you stop trying to impress me and start trusting me. When you finally believe that my love isn't something you work for, but something you live from. That's where transformation happens, not through pressure, but through presence. When you let me into the anxiety, the addiction, the disappointment, the failure, the fear, that's where I begin to rebuild, restore, redeem. You don't need to pretend you're okay. I'm not drawn to masks, I'm drawn to what's real. The tears you don't explain. The doubt you don't share. The places that still hurt even though you've covered them up with busyness and success. I'm ready to step into all of it. But I won't compete with your pride or your fear. I come when you say, Jesus, I can't do this without you. That's when my spirit moves freely. That's when healing begins. This invitation isn't about earning. It's about opening. You don't need to climb to reach me, I already came down to be with you. I'm not waiting for a better version of you to show up. I'm embracing the one that's already here. Because I see who you're becoming, even when you can't see past your struggles. And I still choose you. And again. So stop striving. Start surrendering. Give me the keys to the places you've locked me out of. I will walk in with condemnation, I'll walk in with compassion. I won't point fingers, I'll hold your hands. I won't shame your weakness, I'll strengthen it. All I'm asking is this: let me in. I've heard every cry for breakthrough, every request for doors to open, every prayer for circumstances to shift. You've asked me, again and again, to intervene, to move, to make things easier. And yes, I could shift everything in a moment. I have the power to reverse, to release, to restore. But child, I'm not only working around you, I'm working within you. Sometimes I delay the visible answer because I'm forming something invisible that's far more valuable. I'm not ignoring you. I'm refining you. You've been so focused on escaping discomfort that you've missed what I've been developing inside it. I've used pressure to form resilience. I've allowed tension to build strength. I've permitted questions to deepen your dependence. Because what's forming in you isn't temporary. It's not shallow. It's not decorative. It's eternal. I'm not just working on what you do, I'm shaping who you are becoming. And who you are matters to me more than any result you've been asking me to deliver. If I change your situation too soon, you might miss the transformation I'm offering. You might rush ahead before your spirit is rooted. You might walk into something prematurely and find that it demands more than your current capacity can carry. So instead, I've held you here not as a punishment, but as a process. I've placed you in this season not to frustrate you, but to form in you what couldn't be built in comfort. Growth rarely feels like progress in the moment, but it produces fruit that remains. You see limitation. I see preparation. You feel stuck. I see stability being forged. You see delay. I see divine design. There's something I'm teaching you now that you'll need later. And if you lean into it instead of resisting it, you'll find me right in the middle of it, not just changing your surroundings, but transforming your heart. What you've been walking through isn't wasted. It's holy ground. It's tension. It's making you more compassionate. At pressure. It's sharpening your discernment. At closed door. It's keeping you from stepping into something that looks like a blessing but would drain your soul. I'm not only opening the way, I'm preparing you to walk in it with clarity, authority, and endurance. Because when the answer finally arrives, I don't want it to define you, I want you to carry it from a place of wholeness. You've been thinking, the outcome is the reward. But the real treasure is who you're becoming in this stretch. You're learning to hear me differently. You're learning to trust me without timelines. You're learning to anchor your faith in me rather than in outcomes. That's what this has all been about, not the fix, but the formation. And when the shift does come, you'll notice that you didn't just survive, you emerged stronger, wiser, deeper. I'm not withholding to hurt you. I'm working in ways your eyes cannot yet see. What looks like silence is me speaking through surrender. What feels like waiting is me moving in mystery. I know it's hard to understand now, but one day, you'll look back and thank me for not answering the way you asked. Because you will see how much more I gave instead. So let me finish what I started. Stay with me in this stretch. Don't rush out of what I'm using to shape you. I promise. The situation will shift, but not before it finishes what I sent it to do in you. I know it's uncomfortable. I know you'd rather have clarity, ease, resolution. But if you could see what I see being shaped in your spirit, You'd trust me even in the unknown. The season isn't meant to break you. It's meant to build you. And when the external changes finally come, you won't be the same. You'll be more grounded, more unshakable, more like me. And that was always the real miracle. You've been surrounded by so many voices, some loud, some subtle, all trying to shape your next step. Everyone seems to have an opinion, a plan, an answer. And for a while, you tried to listen to them all, hoping that one of them might speak the clarity you've been searching for. But the more noise you welcomed, the more distant I seemed to feel. Not because I left, but because I don't compete with chaos. I don't shout to be heard above distraction. I whisper where there is stillness. So I started to remove the noise, not to isolate you, but to draw you close. I quieted relationships that once filled every moment. I interrupted routines that distracted your soul. I disrupted patterns that kept you from hearing the sound of my heart. It felt like things were falling apart, but really, I was clearing space, making room, tuning your ears to the sound of heaven. Because what I have to say can't be heard over the static of busyness and people-pleasing. My voice isn't found in frenzy, it flows through intimacy. And now, even though you feel the silence, even though you miss the comfort of constant activity, you're learning to hear me in ways you never could before. You're beginning to recognize the difference between the world's volume and my presence. You're no longer swayed by opinions that lack peace. You're learning to pause, to listen, to wait. Not because it's easy, but because somewhere deep inside, you've discovered that my whisper holds more power than any shout from the outside. This is what I wanted for you all along, not a relationship built on rushing, but one rooted in rhythm. Not faith based on formulas, but faith built through familiarity with my voice. That's why I've let certain things quiet down. Not everything you lost was a loss. Some of it was noise disguised as necessity. Some of it was loud comfort that dulled your discernment. I didn't take it to leave you empty, I cleared it so I could fill you fully. With truth. With stillness. With me. You don't need more noise to feel alive. You need my breath to feel awake. You don't need more advice to find direction, you need to rest in the assurance that I am still speaking. Even now. Even when it feels quiet. Even when it seems like nothing is moving. My whisper is not weak. It's just sacred. And sacred things require stillness to be received. Remember Elijah, I wasn't in the wind. I wasn't in the fire. I wasn't in the earthquake. I was in the still, small voice. And I'm speaking to you the same way, not to overwhelm you, but to draw you close. I whisper because I'm near. I whisper because I want you to lean in. I whisper because I want your attention, not your anxiety. You don't have to chase my voice, it's already closer than your breath. You just have to tune your heart to hear it. So embrace the quiet. Let the silence teach you how to listen again. Let the simplicity of my presence drown out the pressure of performing. Stop running to every voice that promises answers. They may have information, but only I carry revelation. And what I have for you is not general, it's specific, personal, designed for your heart alone. The whisper you're learning to hear now will guide you in the days ahead. It will steer you through distractions. It will guard you from deception. It will comfort you when others fall silent. And once you've heard it, truly heard it, you'll never again confuse noise for direction. So let the quiet remain a little longer. Let me speak without the competition of clutter. Let your spirit rest in the truth that I don't need to be loud to be real. I just need to be welcome. And I am. Even now, I'm speaking. Listen not with your ears but with your heart. Amen.